Was it DD?
No, let's talk.
One of those go talk like he's
Denny.
more
Action. It was the
Less
highway,
talk
how
and a
many
lot of
highway
action.
miles?
Commissioners and watch every meeting. Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I remind everybody to try to keep some order to the meeting. We end up talking over everybody and we can't hear it on the YouTube. Consent agenda. Any additions to the agenda, Chrissy?
I'd like to discuss crack sealing.
Ernie?
Got some discussion on the park, on it, yeah.
Karen?
No.
Amy?
No.
Chrissy? Myself, nothing. We have a motion to the consent agenda and approve the meeting or approve the minutes as presented from last meeting.
Also.
Second.
Your second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Employee time. Nobody here? Gary, you're up.
Great.
If you'd introduce everybody that's with you, Gary, we appreciate it.
Okay, this is Craig Jones, better known as Fluff. He represents Walshville Township. James Bergman, he farms in southeast of Oslo, Hickman Township. And Nietzsche Pesky from Walshville Township. Jeff Houghton, he's across the river from me. He's from Big Woods Township, Minnesota. Derek Gown, Turtle River Township. Come on, guys.
I'll sit by him. Here, if you want to come up on this seat, then we can pick you up a little better on
Okay,
the recorder.
I will. I'm gonna request those guys to fill in what I don't know or don't remember. Visiting with Pitchy Dennis earlier this spring and ran into their Grand Forks. Karen here a couple weeks back. We just thought we'd pop in and do an update and see what's been going on. We've been very, very active. Meeting a lot of people. And one thing we've met with heads of a lot of people in the state, both sides. We've met the head Minnesota DOT, Minnesota DOT. We've met with the state water board leads. Can't remember her name. She's the head of it. We've met with her a couple times, Donna Bismarck and Cavalier. And we got some federal funding. We've been meeting with, working with Senator Klobuchar. And James can update us on that if we have enough time. I think Kelly said we had a half hour here. So anyway, and many other legislators and Senator Hogan's office and Kelly Armstrong. We've met with a lot of people. And slowly, well, we've made some pretty big strides this year. North Dakota legislature, with the help of our district reps and other reps in the valley and others in part of the state, we got 2.5 million approved for study. I'm not sure what the amount is. Some of that 2.5 million is going to go to the short line railroads to help with their study because they're also going to be involved on this project to work with them. And
2.5 was that from Minnesota or North Dakota?
that's from North Dakota.
North Dakota.
And they also approved, I think it's 28 million for a line of credit for the Bank of North Dakota. So after the study, we'll go for 2 years. And then if we move on from there, then that'll be available. Now, this requires the Minnesota match and Minnesota legislature. So we've got people down there working, in Minnesota legislature. Now, we didn't get that through this year. It's in a 2022 bonding bill and conflict between the two parties, and it's a different kind of system out there. They meet every year. And next year is more of their bonding year in 24. So I'm not gonna say it's guaranteed, but they feel very strong that they'll be able to match it. Now, we've met with the, after the legislature, before this even got approved, the North Dakota DOT called us in Bismarck. So we went down, they gave us an hour and a half, they spent 3 hours with us. And they've been down here looking. And they've been busy, they've had meetings with the Minnesota DOT, DNR Minnesota, which is equivalent to our North Dakota State Water Resource Board. And they're bringing in the Army Corps of Engineers, and I'm not sure where they progressed to at this time. We haven't been in contact with them for a while, but the Corps is supposed to set up a scope, my definition of scope, the plan moving forward. And so that's where that's all at. I won't bore you with a lot of details on that. And the other thing now that we're working on, we're putting together, we had an attorney out of Crookston set up our first JPA agreement. And then we considered, he said he wasn't good enough, probably, so we're looking at a firm out of the city. But we decided to go with a firm out of Fargo. And they do have some experience, or maybe a lot of experience. I'm not sure how strong of experience with the Fargo diversion project. So they've rewritten and we call it the Oslo Region Joint Powers Agreement, or Joint Powers Authority. And who's involved in that right now, as far as signing up to be a member, is we have Big Woods, Oak Park, and Hickman Townships in Minnesota, the city of Oslo, and North Dakota. We have Walshville and Turtle River Township. Alaska, this township has decided not to join it, as well as the Grand Forks and Walsh County Water Resource Boards. And I think the Middle River Snake Board out of Warren, I think they'll be joining. They didn't like some of the wording, they didn't like the vote numbers in the Joint Powers Agreement, but that's all been changed and corrected. So we just haven't met with them recently to see if they come on board, but I think they will. So one of my concerns, the reason being here, is we'd like Walsh County to be on that board. We started Pulaski join. Right now, if you look at the members, we're all voted like 4-2. It comes down to a vote. And I think Walsh County needs to be there. We've got a lot of expenses down with the road damages and everything else that's going on. I take a road down that river once, more and more is going into trees, grass, and 9-year easements. If we don't get some more mitigation work out there, you guys are just gonna start losing more and more tax base too. So, so I think it's a concern, and it's a drainage issue. You know, the water board here is concerned because of the size of the project, but I think we got it pretty well lined up now that the DOTs will take care of the bridges and the roads per se, and then the DNR and the North Dakota Water System, then they'll come in on what we call phase 2 of the project, which is there'll be some dike realignments, and then federal money's coming in. And we're working on that, how to manage that money for buyouts, and, and there's a few other things that we've pinpointed with that. And there's local funding is an issue, and we're not looking to tax local landowners. There's 19 million acres of flood area that flows through the Oslo Bridge. We are working, we met with one of the state water commissions, and maybe, James, can you address that better, how we have local funding really work? How we're trying to pursue that?
You're talking for the COVID charge stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Would you come up, yeah, so we can start?
so we've, signed up for and got approved through the federal funding, some of this congressionally directed spending. And we applied for it in 21, then applied again in 22, and being encouraged by Senator Smith and Klobuchar's offices. It's largely a Democratic run setup. So when we did apply, we did not get funding the first year, but last year we did get funding through that. And now we're going through the mechanism of how does the money really come, you know, just because Congress passed it, it's going to come through FEMA. And you go through the FEMA offices down in Chicago, and you know, they want us to be in the county emergency management programs and all that, so forth. So we're going through that process now as to how the mechanism will really work to get the funding to the project. And boy, when it comes to Klobuchar office, they want to make sure the money's spent on the Minnesota side. You know, it's all those little details, you know, which might not be 100% common sense for the next step, but we have 40 items to work on, and we certainly can address to what their desires are, to work with them on. And their offices have been pretty darn supportive to try to, both in the office in Moorhead and from Washington DC, that several times to support trying to get this mechanism to truly work. We encourage visiting with Marshall County emergency management person to try to get it into their plan. So all that process is going on. One stipulation that FEMA likes to have is some type of local match. Now, we were told that early in the game around Christmas time last year when the funding was first developed. Working with the FEMA people, we're trying to, our opinion of local match would be the basin, not local Pulaski, Higdon, our local townships or counties. And so we have had visits with our district person for the North Dakota Water Commission, Michael Anderson. And our vision would be local would be state through the Water Commission in North Dakota and the Minnesota DNR to support, to get the match for the federal dollars. So that, again, another process. We've had more discussion on the North Dakota side than we have on the Minnesota side for that effort. But we're learning the process as it's going. And pretty blunt, the Klobuchar's office has been pretty helpful to try to support. They're calling us more than calling them, so that's a pretty good sign. They want to get this done. So, and when Klobuchar was up, she said this wasn't the end of the money, but it was the start. Whatever that's worth, we'll see. But, we certainly, it was 2.35 million is what we were awarded for that effort. And also Region Joint Power Board was the assignee end of the receiver board. So,
because it needed to be taxable entity, so it's made up by the townships and the city of Oslo too, because they can assess tax or whatever.
when we've been meeting with you through the years as BTAG, Board of Township Associative Group. And that's structured as like a lake association group. It's a kind of voluntary, it's no authority to it. The Joint Power Board does have, I mean, we're not intending the tax, but we have to show that ability in order to get the money. And so when we signed up for the program in the first place, that we had talked about doing this joint power, that spurred us to get it put together. And so we got the townships, like Gary had mentioned, involved to get on this joint power board so that we're an actual entity that the federal dollars can react to.
Yeah, I think when we had the Zoom meeting with the Klobuchar people out of Washington, I think his answer, what's local, he says anything that isn't federal.
Yeah, that's the answer.
So it's, there's a broad scope of open.
We certainly, our position is pretty strong on this. I mean, 631,000 people get supported by the bridge in Oslo, the water of 631,000 people coming in there. We're certainly, we pay our portion of the 631,000 people. It's like a 0.04%, whatever, it is super small. I think we'd be worthy to be up for that, but certainly not the whole scale of it. And so that's how we would view the world, and that's how we're trying to push it. When it gets to local funding, that means states relative to federals.
So eventually this will get turned over to the Corps of Engineers then, or?
The Corps is involved now. I mean, I don't think this project would ever happen without at a minimum of a permit from the Corps. As we've gotten, when we went to the legislative session, which Karen, we appreciate all the effort we did on that too, on the state level. The DOTs and stuff want the Corps more involved, and so we have been in contact with the Corps. Two of us visited the Corps. The office is down in St. Paul. And, it'll be a consortium of the Corps and the DOTs and stuff, and the water commissions. DNR, North Dakota State Water Commission, that will do this, but the Corps study capacity gives some meat to the effort.
So what's the hang up with the other townships, excuse me, or counties not getting involved? Why don't they want to get involved?
Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is the project's too big, but I don't think it's too big if you're part of a big group. You know, they can certainly be a member, and I think Walsh County needs to be a member of the Joint Powers Agreement, because there's something not that is good for Walsh County.
Definitely.
You gotta be at the table to say, hey, this doesn't work for us, or at least have a vote, you know, have the influence, kind of like, there's a lot of things that we discussed that these guys know I don't agree with them on. But at least I'm there to speak for my area and say, you know, I don't like this, I don't think this works, and we work it out, you know, and so we gotta be at the table. Walsh County needs to be at the table. And Walsh County, our area, we really haven't had, since the dikes were built in 1975, I've been involved in a lot of stuff for that area. And we really haven't had a whole lot of support from Walsh County. And I think it's time to, this is my personal time to buck up. We need help. This is our 11th year on this. We've made a lot of progress. You know, we've met with Colvin's people and others, and I think going on the road, I think we can, you know, visiting with Representative Kelly Armstrong, he came all the way down to Memphis to visit about this, so he's been helping us. You know, they just decided to do the thing to go to Joe's office down there with the budget worked out. And he said they work together a lot more down there than the newspapers let us know. So I think when it comes down to really getting this rolling hard, I think they'll all be there. Voters said there, like Jim said, the money is there for us. We just got to get through this first study now and get this. I think tomorrow morning we're meeting to get the JPA
Organization.
get this organized better and everything. I mean, get it organized. We don't have a chairman or whatever.
We set up the JPA. We had intention to do it when the application. The first application, we were given 1 week to get into Klobuchar's office. You know, so we set up the JPA on the short JPA with just 2 townships on the short order with the room to expand, just so we could get the application in. And then we met last winter trying to get people involved. And now when the Klobuchar money was coming, I call it the federal money was coming. The attorney we had working on it was a little bit out of his purview to respond properly with it. So we got hooked up with, as Gary mentioned earlier, Anshin Twitchell. And they have done quite a bit of the joint powers around the Fargo project, and a lot more knowledgeable in the area. So they're going to help us through this effort. And so everything we would like to have Walsh County involved. We want to get Marshall County Water or the Middle River State involved. I think though that group will help us pull that together, and so we're counting on that. They have some experience.
I guess, we've been sitting here for the last 2.5, 3 weeks doing our budget. And I get your idea of wanting to support, and I totally support you verbally. But after going through budgets and everything else, I said, I don't know if we could really monetarily help you, because it's been a struggle and we're behind everything. And if it counts to money, I don't know if we could verbally commit some cash dollars to you, whether it's a local match or whatever. But verbally and everything, I get your project and I think it's really needed, but unless we get more money as a county, I don't know where we could even come up with money to back you guys, so.
Well, I don't think I'm here for money, because
No, but that
we're
really
trying
well.
to source money, state, federal, we're trying to, well, we just know local funding.
Yeah.
If they gotta vote, with all the absentee owners and the land now, they all realize that. They're not gonna say, yeah, I'll let you tax me $30 an acre for the next 40 years or whatever. It's not gonna happen.
No.
And I don't think we're looking for money. We're looking for your voice and representation on this JPA board. That's what we need. Yeah, it's gonna cost you some, like somebody sit in the meetings or whatever, and some travel costs perhaps, whatever, but so we're gonna have to, anyway, we're gonna continue to beat that. We're a nonprofit 501c. That's what we are. We're basically the lobbying arm. And the ORJPA is going to be the administrator of the funds that come in. So that's where the water board would sit. The money that they bring in is going to should pay the cost of the JPA to operate. They'll manage the money.
And going forward, if the Corps is involved, pushes this project and leads this project, we're still gonna fight to be a voice on that project to make sure it's going in the direction that benefits all of us.
See you at the table there. Christie, you got a question?
But I think I've got to think about it now after everyone. My question was, are the other counties on the Minnesota side part of this joint powers agreement?
No.
Or any other counties?
No other county at this point.
Okay,
But we just like the water boards to be involved. Then I think we probably partner.
and that was gonna be my next statement, I guess, is I feel like our water board is the expertise with this, not the commissioners, but our water board. But our water board has apparently said they're not interested, correct?
Well, they met with Grand Forks County and together they just felt the project was too big. It's a core project. Well, we're getting the core in, we got the DOTs in, we're getting the big state power in, and, this is complex. You work with 6, 7 townships, you're working with 2 states, you're working with 3 counties, 3 different water boards. FEMA divides right down the middle of the river, so you gotta work with Denver, you gotta work with St. Paul, or no, Chicago, I think, office, so it's complex.
Right, so
But we need to be at the table.
But I think Grand Forks and Walsh Counties, one of their main concerns was a financial commitment to this, and they don't want to make a financial commitment to it. We're not asking for a financial commitment, it's the input. So you can be on there and you can see what's happening, and then, so you have a voice in there. When we hired this new firm, I think we can answer their questions better. We'd like to meet with Walsh County and Grand Forks water boards again, either separately or together. And so they can air that concern again, and then we can have the new lawyer who drew up this agreement. They can ask them directly, are they making a financial commitment, or will they have a financial commitment? And to our knowledge, the answer is no. It's more of an input and support than a financial thing we're looking for.
I think it says right in the agreement, the board shall incur no debt. So it's money in, decide where the money goes.
right, I guess my feeling is the support comes better from our water board because they are the experts in this. I don't feel that I would be, if you ask the commission to step up to the table, I certainly don't feel like I would be a good member on that. I feel like our water board members would be a better member, but.
Well, the thing, Christie, is too, the Water Resource Board oversees drainage. This is drainage.
Right.
We got drainage coming to the river, we just haven't got it going north.
But Amy, you have a question?
I just, when we were talking about this and they brought up the point of
you know, some of the counties not being involved or choosing not to, you know, we see the big picture of the jail project coming forward, and we all can see how beneficial it could be to counties around here in different directions. I think we've all witnessed Oslo, and I guess I just look at it, we do need to see the big picture in this project as well. And if we're not financially committing, you know, things, and we're not worried about the dollars, you know, seeing a big picture of this completing, I think is the bigger deal. So I support us.
Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, for one, too, would be, agree with Gary about Walsh County being on board with this. I just want to make sure that, and like, as Kurt said, we aren't tied to any, to levy any taxes or anything. And I think that's the main part. If the water board doesn't want to sign on to it, that's fine. I think then the commission could sign on to it, and then maybe the water board would be on as a representation. I definitely, for one, would want to be on that, or JPA. So I don't think that us signing on to this agreement ties us financially at all, and it would be a good idea to do it.
I guess, I'd like to maybe correct a few statements. It's not that we were never interested in this project, we're very interested, of course we are. It flows through and by us, around us and in us and whatever. I think at the time when we were discussing some of this stuff that you probably didn't have this, as I'm finding out now with this new lawyer and agreements about payments, we were all concerned about, we sign on the dotted line and then we're stuck with, you put a number on it. Our budget can't afford that, and through all, and Gary, we've been to many meetings together, we've been in our office many times. We supported you, but we were so nervous, I think you were in your infant stages. Well, infant stages, you've been at this for how many years, so I don't know, nobody's an infant anymore. We were all concerned about the monetary, our budget can't handle that. If and when now with a new agreement, I think you've done a lot more work with the Corps. And I think you guys have moved ahead, and without a commitment to monetary as far for financial, we have given you some monies through the years, not a lot, but some. I think the initial study with Houston stuff for that book and, or that one study. I think we need to readdress this issue. With that new lawyer, with the agreements that you have or something, I would not say that we would not be in favor or would not sign, I would not say that right now. But I think another visit would be fine, but we were concerned in the initial part of it. I know you went to the past legislation, and I know you met with Tom Campbell, and you got some money from that side, matching money on the other side, and of course that goes fast. And we were just worried that because you signed on the dotted line, like, oh, well, we're gonna go down the chain of command here and assess because we got a bill. We didn't want to get a bill in the paper, and so I guess. And if Larry or LB want to add anything, I'm still curious why Pulaski would have pulled out Gary. I'm sure it's financial reasons also, maybe, I don't know.
No, I don't think it's financial. First off, I want to say it, they're like, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think we're maybe in our teenage years. We're maybe like 21 now, we're still learning.
Still learning, but we're getting gray hair learning.
Yeah, but I agree with you, and I'm glad you guys wanna look into it again. John, we'll get a meeting together if you wanna bring Grand Forks or at least the Walsh County Board, and
I think we'll.
and maybe if you want Dan Gossett and on the phone or Zoom or something, we can bring in Lucas, the attorney that we're using.
I like that.
Kelvin, you have something?
I just wanted to reiterate that we're under you guys. Your funding comes to us. So we couldn't be spending money that we really didn't think was, so that's the only reason we were reluctant to. I mean, apparently, we don't have that kind of budget, so.
Well, and I agree with, LB there. That's why I think it's important for Walsh County to be part of this agreement, because we're over the water board. And yes, they, like I said, they could be a representative, but we're over it. And those are our roads. Those are Walsh County roads that get beat up every year, and, you know, farms that get flooded every year. And we levy the taxes, so it just makes more sense for the county to be on there. And, you know, maybe if they see Walsh County being as part of that, Pulaski would come in on it too. I don't know, but I think as the bigger picture, like Amy said, when we want to support something, the bigger entities would be the best to be on there, knowing that we are not tied to any monetary funding.
Yes, going back to it, and LB sort of did it. I don't know if Walsh County, and I get what Karen's saying, but I think our support would come from the water board, because they're our entity that does drainage and everything, and I know we got a stack in there. And me as a commissioner, I don't know if I could talk with everybody else, it sounds like we're for it. I would certainly encourage the water board, but we really can't tell them either way, they have to do it or anything else. We just, like LB said, we just do their budget. And I'm sitting here now, and I'll speak for myself, I would truly encourage, and I think Daryl's changed his mind a little bit to it, that we get involved, but I think we sometimes, I know it affects our roads, but this is more of a drainage, and yeah, you're gonna change roads, but we've done things as a county that got us in trouble because we did things to ditches that maybe should have went to the water board, and we decided. So I feel they're the good entity to be working with the drainage along with you guys.
I got no problem at all.
Yeah.
That's great. And, I think that's good. You guys should look at it, yeah.
Here, one more thing, going back to Karen's point, whether it's a federal level or state, they always say local funding. We've been fighting against that since day one. We do not want to spend any more dealing with Fargo's water, Valley Cities. All this water comes through here. It's not a local share. So that's, I believe, benefits having more people on this board to have a bigger voice saying, no, this is not just our problem. So, Basin Water.
Daryl?
I guess the one concern I have right now, I haven't felt it or heard of it. Your study went up to not even including Drake. Am I correct on that?
Went about 3 miles north of 317. But this new study now with the state is all the way to the Canadian border.
And our study stopped due to funding, and that's where the water
But
disappeared.
I think you'll agree with me that the initial start of this was just up to 317, and we feel like, yeah, we got all this water coming, but if we don't study it up to the border and or our Canadian friends will be scrutinizing this to the nth degree, that what do we do with Drake? Drake is in trouble in respects also with spring flooding. We've got to study this whole thing, and that's why we said it's just way beyond our scope as far as length and breadth of this, as what it should take. Without the financial burden on us, the support, I think, could very well be there. It's not that we never did not support you guys, we were just scared of, we didn't think the study was far enough. And there were other issues in your early presentations, but I think you guys have addressed some of that, and I mean, we're certainly more than willing, we'll sit on again.
Well, that study we did, I think it's 2018 study, supported by North Dakota Legislature, North Dakota State Water Resources did the match. And the whole purpose was to see what the effects to people in North Dakota are. Because I know, when I sat in with these guys, I says, you know, we've got to look north of us. Because I says, we're affected from people south of us. This is hurting us. We don't want to hurt some number. Plus, there is I don't know if it's a written law or what it is, but with the dike issue in about 1980, they did a deal where you will not dump any water in the river that will raise it by 6 inches.
Right.
So this here dissipates the water out at about 2 miles and it's like 2 or 3 inches.
And I guess as a water board, we are always looking downstream impacts, who it affects, where it dumps into, how it goes, and the routes and different things. And to me, that first initial study comes short. And there were just some issues you could not get on board with.
But you're kind of feeling they're covering the
Well,
bases now?
I mean, I would like to see what they've got now. And look at it, study it, listen to their lawyer and have our lawyer there and then, get through all that stuff and I'm not counting it out by any means and I'm not signing on right now either, so.
Our initial study was a conceptual study. The Houston study was to show that if we took out those restrictions, would it in fact lower the water south of Oslo and north of Oslo and the impact it has to the north. But now before the DOTs will get involved, they want to have their own study that proves to them that for one, the project will work and that it doesn't negatively impact people to the north, all the way to the Canadian border, because they know they have to deal with Canada also, just like they did with the Fargo bypass.
What we've gathered from the North Dakota DOT, then talking to the Corps, they're gonna study from Fargo to Canada.
Okay. Chris, do you have something?
I do. So tell me again, the townships that are involved in this project or that would be affected by this project. You said Walshville?
Wallsville is going to be in JPA and Turtle River, the first township in Grand Forks County.
Turtle River, okay, and then the
And-
next
and-
one up is Pulaski? I don't
And
see.
Pulaski
it.
hasn't
Yes.
joined yet, I'm still
Okay,
still
so,
trying to convince them, you asked that question, they feel there may not be a whole lot of benefit. Their biggest scare is Austin gets a new long bridge and nothing happens at 72378. So that's a focus that we've all, I don't know if I convinced these guys, but a longer bridge at Austin does not work if you don't open up 17.
We have conveyed that to the DOTs and they know we want to start north, work south.
I guess it makes me a little nervous that we would approve something when our townships that are impacted are not on board. You know, because Pulaski's impacted, correct?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I think I invited two of the supervisors, one for sure, they didn't show, so. But I didn't talk to him directly this time, but he's, one of them I keep very much informed about this. I meet with them, so they're informed what's going on with the law, and they say, well, you just go ahead, keep sitting in and representing us, but I'm not gonna go on the JPA if you do that.
So we're talking about going all the way to the Canadian border. Have you talked to the other townships along?
To the north?
Yeah.
Well, we invited Acton, which they didn't want to join back then, and then we did have York, I think it's called, across the river, but they feel there's no benefit to them, so they just, their representative dropped out and said, well, they don't have any much benefit to us, so.
The further north you get from Oslo, the less the benefit is, height wise during the flood, but we're hoping, like I'm north of Oslo, 8-10 miles. And the benefit south of Oslo in reduction of water height is a lot more than it is in Big Woods, or if you go north of Big Woods to Fort, which is up by the 317 area, it barely almost gets to be, it's just a little bit of a reduction. And if you get north of 17, where our study ended, there was no impact on the river level, and that's due to funding we stopped there due to funding, and they said there's no need to go further once you get to a zero impact. It's not gonna be zero impact here and have an increased impact further north.
Because right now, all the water goes over 317 on the Minnesota side, 220, the Snake River comes in. So all the water is there anyways. It's like when the Drayton Bridge got expanded, there's no downstream impact because all the water is already going over the highway. Now it's just going under, so it's not changing below.
So they're not worried that it's going to negatively impact them if you do this.
That's what we believe the study shows.
Karen?
No, I'm good.
One thing I would like to put out there here is we look to the future too, and how this is playing out. I look at this group here, this is a good group of people here that we know our local area and our stuff. Army Corps is involved And they can, I have some concerns of them over barreling us a little bit with something that they want, which might not fit what we think is good. This, the VTech group and the township group, we sit pretty comfortable together because we have a pretty good common sight of what should happen here. Important to be at the table if the Army Corps is involved. It's very, very important. When I sit and look at what's going on down in Fargo area, I'm going, all the locals would necessarily agree with all that. So,
And that's gonna impact us.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Going to James' point, when the city of Austin redid their levy alignment, Army Corps' first option was just buy out the town.
Because of what?
Buy out the town. They started-
That's how Army Corps sees
Yeah,
us, and
yeah.
so we need to be at the table. They're at, the unity with us is important.
Are you saying that the Army Corps are bullies?
They view the world different than we do.
Well, I guess I see this as a big project, and like Amy said, you know, you look at this from a 30,000-foot view and how it's gonna impact Walsh County and everybody around us. It's an awful big ball to push forward, but the more people involved in that, the easier it is. And I guess I would like to encourage our water board to look at probably getting on board with this and moving this project along. I see the benefit in it 100%. Granted, I live 500 feet higher, so, but I've driven down that way during the flood, and more so since I became a commissioner, and that's a problem. I mean, man, I don't know how you guys put up with that. You know, the debris that's out in those fields and well, we see County Road 2 getting wiped out every year, and it's just, something's gotta be done. It's not gonna get any better. These extreme weather events are just gonna compound this problem. And I think the more people that are, got a seat at the table at early stages, the better off we are.
I think this is getting a little bit off of the point here, but, I think Dennis Marcus is a good idea, and I think, Sharon Lips pushed it forward somewhat, is the, spots on number 2, put some low areas in, hard surface, and water goes away, and life goes on. Everything, I think that's one place you guys could really spend some money. That'd be a big benefit to you. This FEMA money, look how slow it's coming. I think it's coming slow because they don't have the money because of all the disasters across the whole nation. But probably a big thing. But, I think that's one project for all of you guys to consider. But anyway, I think we got our point across, and Daryl, whatever works for you, contact us and we'll try to put a meeting together. And
Larry, you got a question?
Yeah, just be sure, go home and read the contract that you're gonna sign. Be sure you read that and see how you're involved. Because once you sign that, there's a commitment to you. And if they set up a budget, you're set, you're in the group. And then ask yourself, I realize what they're trying to say. But sit down and realize, do you think, and does this group think there's not gonna be flooding out at the Red River in your lifetime? Does anyone in this room think that's gonna happen? I don't think it will. There's a lot of water coming down, and I can see where the Corps is protecting Fargo, and I can see where the Corps is protecting Grand Forks. And you can look at the diversion of Grafton. The Corps was involved, and they voted it down. What did the Grafton do? They followed the Corps design to a T. They put it in place. You know, this group doesn't want the Corps involved, who's gonna pay for it? If they tell the Corps, we're not gonna go along with your plan, which they did in Grafton, they didn't wanna go along with that deal. So they sat, and then they went back to the State Water Commission, but they followed the Corps plan to a T. Now, you can, if they get their bridges in Minnesota, and you do the bridge by Alpha, and you do the railroad bridge, and you do the 317, where's the water go? Go ask them in Pembina County, when it gets up to there, and the Emerson Bridge is too small for the water to go through, what do they do? And you can go to Mike Anderson, I've been at the meeting, go talk to him and see what he said.
But go home and read the agreement, what it says. Go through it and read it. And when you sign on, you're responsible.
Karen?
Well, Larry, I don't know that, we're gonna probably make a decision today on any of that, but,
That is correct.
and I don't believe it's gonna stop flooding, but it's surely gonna help the farmers in the area around there to, eliminate the water faster to go through there, because it's a big bottleneck there, we know why. And I'm no expert at it, believe me, but I think the plan that they have, whether the Corps goes along with it or not, we have to follow through with it. I don't think we cannot do anything. I mean, we have county road too, we have township roads, there's stuff that maybe could be eliminated there. I don't know, but I just think even if you guys would decide to be a part of that agreement too, I still think Walsh County would be beneficial to be on there too. The more, and maybe Grand Forks County even, maybe they would decide to be on it and support their water board. I don't know, I just feel like that we are, as long as we're guaranteed that we have no, ties to any funding, I think we're okay, as far as supporting the group.
County Road 2 will always go underwater.
I understand
We're not
that.
gonna get rid of that.
Yep, but
There's
still,
a certain amount of water
Yep.
that's gotta go,
I
and it's
understand that.
gotta go
So that
somewhere.
what, cubic feet per second. Like,
Right.
Yeah, we're not gonna stop at 97 floods of 120,000 CFS. But we shouldn't have the same elevation at Austin at a 60,000 CFS. Half water and we're getting the same elevation.
Doing nothing doesn't work. Yeah, right.
To Larry's point on reform that, I was at a water board meeting in Michigan one time, and that was on that pumping from the slough. I don't know if you guys were there, I know Lawrence and I went, and that's what scares me about FEMA too, because the Hoots actually got up and said, we'll take the water, we'll help you pay for the pumping and everything else, and go to Niagara and that way. And the guy from the Corps stood up and looked at him and said, that's not in their plan.
Right.
And I got up and I said right away, I got up and I should have saw the look the Corps gave me. I said, this is the first time I've been to a water board meeting. Somebody wants the water, somebody's willing to pay for it, and you won't give it to them. And boy, did he glare me down. And that, on this project, when you mentioned the Corps, that's the one thing that scares me. We get trouble with them on Hummy Dam. They don't tell us if they're pumping, they let the water down, no communication. So I'm all for it and everything else, but that Corps being there, that scares me.
Well, I have to commend you guys on
Yep,
the footwork that you're doing. Would you say 11 years you've been working on this?
I think winter 11.
There's I'm sure a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of thought going into this process. And it's good to see somebody taking the initiative to try and get this thing rolling.
It's sad to see that it's a group of farmers that have to do it.
Yeah.
And not state water commission or the local.
But that's where it all starts, is at the grassroots. And you guys are doing a good job of that, so. Are there any other questions for him?
Thanks, guys.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
You gave us 45 minutes.
We knew Gary was long, winded.
Yeah, we're at come up?
You bet. So, I guess I have one thing before I start, if I could. I think Christie mentioned that this is later on your agenda, but I was just wondering if we could make a motion to add Christie Quavel to signing checks on our Choice Bank account, if somebody could
So moved.
do that.
Very good. Do we have a motion or a second?
Oh, second.
Call for the vote, Karen,
Yes,
Jamie?
yes.
Christie,
Yes,
Ernie,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carried.
Okay, second quarter treasurer's checks, you should have that hopefully in front of you. Never much to say about it, but there they are. One thing I do want to bring up about treasurer's checks though is,
Go ahead.
with our new Tyler software that we just started in July, they had strongly suggested that we maybe think about doing away with treasurer's checks because we, at the current time, are running two sets of checks out of the same bank account, like different sequence of numbers, and they don't like to see that. That's not good, I guess. And so they had suggested just running it all with our warrants. If that's okay. If it's not okay, then we'll have to open up a separate bank account so I can do treasurer's checks out of a separate bank account. So,
Why wouldn't it be okay? There's no real drawback, is there?
I don't know if it's hard to set it up in the program or what, but I don't know. Do you know anything why, or?
have you checked with any other counties to see if that have the Tyler software, how they handled it?
I guess I didn't.
It's in the agenda,
Didn't it come?
or in the agenda packet.
Came
Okay.
July 27th.
What did, oh, or else it's up on top, August
Yeah, I
first.
had to click up on
So Sherry, right now it's coming out of the same bank
It's
account.
coming out of the same bank account.
Okay, so when you asked if it was okay, you're talking, okay, to run all the checks as a warrant check, right? Is that what you were asking?
Well, that's what
Instead of the
I-
treasurer's, right? Yes,
Kind of
yes,
doing away with the treasurer's checks
yes,
and just doing it all in that one checking account.
yeah.
I don't know, I mean,
I don't know if that'd be an issue, I guess. I don't know, but
it. Ron?
Sherry, does that mean that we would not be able to get checks, the same day?
no, we're gonna do it the same day. We are learning how to do them,
Same thing as.
so that's not an issue. We talked about the sheriff's bond. You know, like,
Yeah, yeah.
we figured out like over the last year, there was $10,000 worth of bond money. And we hadn't run that in the system. We had kind of was like an in and an out. So if we run it in the system, we have to add that to the budget, like an in and an out, or?
No,
We're gonna
my
do that.
recommendation would be to make a special fund for that, so that it doesn't affect our county general.
So it won't be in
when-
the county
there-
general.
Yeah, so I don't think it should be in the county general, even if we don't budget for it, it's gonna skew our numbers and show that we're negative $10,000 when, I mean, essentially,
Right.
when it wasn't taxpayer money that we were using. That was my suggestion.
In by bond, we're talking about inmates who bond.
Bonding out of jail.
So it is truly an in and an out. There's no,
We receive the
yeah.
payment and we write a check to the clerk of district court.
Exactly, and that's why my suggestion was to get it out of county general, the number sequence, so that it's clear that that's what that is, because I hate for it, one day it looked like it's the taxpayers that were funding that.
Right.
There's transparency.
Right, and the other big thing is refund checks, like if somebody overpays their taxes or there's abatements. Those are the other things that treasurer's checks are, so we can issue refunds right away. So to me, as far as balancing bank statements and stuff, it would be kind of nice just to have one sequence of numbers and just, to
Sure.
me, I think it'd be easier. And it's eyes on it too. I mean, it's, before it was just on the balance sheet, so it wasn't in the program.
Do you need a
So,
motion for that?
I don't know, do you?
Probably should, so it's
Okay.
when you're ready. I'll make a motion, we go ahead with it.
Is there a second?
Second,
Your further discussion?
I would just like to see you check with another county that is utilizing the Tyler software as well, and see how they handled it, if they had any issues with it.
Okay,
I always think it's good to do your due research, due diligence on it
yeah.
before we go ahead.
Honestly, it's all over the board. Some do, some don't. It's everybody, there's no uniformity. I mean, it's.
Okay. Okay,
That's what I'm finding. Whenever I ask a question, it's some do, some don't, and
Well, a lot of it makes your jobs easier.
I think it will.
I guess if you're not comfortable with it when you get into it, I'm just making a motion to move forward, then don't do it. But you
Yeah.
guys can be the judges.
Sounds good? Yeah. And so you saw the treasurer's check?
Well, we've got a motion.
Oh,
second.
sorry.
Call for a vote. Karen?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
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 So, yes, motion carried.
Okay,
All right, what?
on to second quarter numbers. So our beginning balance for 2023, we started off 22,528,419.45. We had receipts in the second quarter of 2,712,586.97, and we had disbursements of 4,461,746.51. So our ending balance at the end of June was 20,779,259.91. And that's a substantial increase over the prior year, as you can see on the sheet there. And so if you look at the receipts section, you'll notice there was a pretty substantial May non-tax receipts, and 515,000 of that, 500,000 of that May number for non-tax was 2022 spring flood money that came in. So that's why that number is so elevated. As far as tax receipts, pretty close there. Disbursements, an increase of 500,000, 600,000 in disbursements. So, things are costing more money now. I don't know if you want anything else brought out of that. Any questions or?
So the money that came in for, you said it was for the flood,
Right,
how much was that?
$514,500.
Okay, so that went back out to the highway department then?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Townships,
Yep.
FEMA money, right?
Yeah, it was FEMA money.
So it's all
Flood-
been
flood money.
dispersed? Okay,
Yes,
okay, that's what I.
but that's why it was so much higher than normal.
Okay,
Most of that come in, FEMA money?
For the 2022 spring flood, I don't know if it's the
Yeah.
full amount, but
What we're gonna get, yes.
Yeah, okay.
is it what you expected?
No, it's lower than we figured, but it's, there's nothing we can do about some of them with variances and stuff they have set with fighting with FEMA all the way to DC, where DES can't do anything about it. So.
All right,
and then the first half comparison by year is next, and you can see from 22 to 23, there was an increase of 5 million. However, I just want to remind you that, remember back in December, we were behind quite a bit in entering tax receipts because I had a sick employee. And so we were like 3 million behind there already then. So our January is really an elevated amount. January and February are both elevated by, I would say, at least $3 million. So just keep that in mind, I guess. And then, we've got that 500,000 of tax, flood money in there too, so. It may look big, but not as big as it should be.
Well, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, when the ARPA funds went in, I don't remember when that was, but that was around 2 million.
Yeah, I don't know if that was, I don't know if that That wasn't in this. I don't think so. I don't
Okay,
think so.
all right, I just wanted to make sure.
the end of last year, wasn't it?
Okay, well, I'm not, I
I don't
have to
remember.
look.
That's fine.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Anything else?
No,
Any questions for Sherry?
I'd make a motion that we accept the treasurer's budget as presented.
Second.
You have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Further discussion? Call for the question, Karen,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes,
Ernie?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Thank you very much.
have a good day.
correction, it shouldn't be budget. I have budget on my mind.
I was gonna say so.
Didn't even catch it.
Yeah.
And that includes the treasurer's checks,
Yeah.
right, that's all of that, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Gergens, good morning.
Morning.
I'm here to talk a little bit about, I called it jail management system. It's called Guardian RFID, and it is two Android devices that are used. You can use it with a RFID tag, that a bracelet around their arms, the inmates. And it's to track different events like security checks, cell checks, cell searches. You can take pictures and videos with it. If you find contraband in the cells, you can take pictures and videos of that. Any injuries or it has that capability. When you issue meals, keep track of that. All this stuff is now being done on paper. This would just provide an easier, quicker way of being able to get the records and reports from that, the stuff we're doing now. Joelle, you want to talk a little bit about on your end, what this new system might help you with?
Yeah, so right now we're on paper medication administration records.
Oh, Joelle, you want to come on? Sorry.
No, you're good.
So right now, we're working with paper medication administrative records. So all of the documentation when people get medications is on a piece of paper. So this essentially would replace all of that. You would put the medication orders directly into the system. It's a cloud-based system, so that's nice for me since I'm working part-time. I, right now, can't see the medications unless I physically go into the jail, look at the medication book. So when I get calls or questions, it's really hard for me to respond. And then they have to do a lot of legwork of looking at all the medications. So I could log into the system on my own at home if there's a question, look at it and update things, and it would be a lot more efficient. So that's a really big plus, but it also tracks inventory. So when the medications come in, they usually do like a count and they track it in a paper sheet right now. So you can keep track of the inventory, and it actually sends real live alerts when things are getting low and when to reorder from the pharmacy, which is huge. It also, on the device itself, it gives reminders before the medications are due, so it vibrates. So it's a nice kind of reminder, okay, these medications are due, and then it only pulls up the medications that are assigned for that time. So on the sheet right now, it shows all of the medications, whether it's a morning medication or a night medication. So it really just simplifies it for the officers that are giving the medication. It only pops up like at the 6 a.m. med pass, the 6 a.m. meds that are due. So that's really nice. And then, let's see. It also can send alerts, and you can set it up, so then they can send email alerts to me, Adam, Ron, whoever you set it up for. So if there's like a medication that wasn't passed or a late medication, it alerts you right away. So right now, if there was any question about that, I'd have to go into the med book, look back through the pages, look through every single thing, and it just is not efficient. And it's really hard to keep track of that way. So it just would cut down a lot on just the efficiency aspect of medication administration, and like a lot of long-term care facility hospitals that they've been using electronic, like EMRs, medication administration records for, I don't know, a long time. So we're kind of behind the times with all the paper. So it would just be a really big asset to have that easier to track. And also for their purposes, they can tie specific things to specific officers, so they can see, you know, if a specific officer is having issues getting medications on time, it gives them that real feedback, so it's easier to track, you know, kind of the checks and balances too, and it's real time, and it's easier that way too, so.
You can also track like supplies issue. A big thing in the jail is razors, right? You want to make sure that you issue one to sell, you get it back. It tells you who you issued it to, and sets a timer on when you want it back, so it doesn't get forgotten. It is, I think it's a more efficient way of us running our jail. And in the future, when we build our new jail, it also will track recreation. So if you have people out of their cells and they're at rec or they're at visitation, when you do your rounds, it tells you where these people are, and it just tracks them and gives you a report on the activities. Sometimes we have to look back and find out who was in the cell at a certain time. You can say, no, they were in visitation or they were at a doctor. It is a much more efficient way of handling the tracking of our prisoners now.
I think we're in the stone age right now, not having this. I mean, EMRs that's all I use. I have no paper charts in my clinic. We 100% need to move to this. I make a motion to it.
I've been using this in cattle for years. Really?
It is time we come out of it.
Yeah.
And just the reporting you can get.
It's the liability that we're doing.
Right.
Net errors and
Really.
yes.
What's the cost?
Yeah.
So the cost this year, is that $5,742.50.
Okay, and then after that,
On that second page,
Didn't
it breaks
roll
it down a little bit, this one right here.
That's the initial.
So the next year, of course, it's gonna go up. The next year, it's $7,985.
And you've got money in your
I do.
budget for it?
I do, yes.
I agree, much needed.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Karen, second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Adam, do you have anything to add to it?
No, I think this is actually gonna be a great addition to the jail. And when we get a new facility, it'll be a great addition there too. It tracks everything. We can even do mail, we can do mail, like you were saying, visit. It not only tracks when you move the person to visit, who they visiting, and when they came back from visit. It also can track if we need to go to the hospital, we can actually send one of the little things over there. They can keep track of the person at the hospital. And when they come down, it just shoots all the information back to the computer.
Mr. Chairman, so each prisoner has an armband, wristband?
There's two ways of doing it. You can have the wristband method, which I would prefer, or you can have an RFID tag on the outside of the cell. You scan that and it tells you who's inside the cell. So there's the two different ways of doing it. And it also will integrate with the software we have now, so we don't have to double enter. It takes that information. I think that their mugshot, and some of their data, and it'll transfer that over to the Guardian system.
Just think if you would have had this when you were trying to collect all your data for jail.
Oh,
10 years ago.
I know, yeah, I know.
And what they said, it holds it for a lifetime.
Yeah.
There's, if we take pictures, we take anything, it's all there. We can pull back up old records from.
And even space. I mean, you think about
Right.
the charts and paper and.
All the reports we've boxed up and are holding at it.
Any further discussion on it? We'll call for the vote. Karen?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Chrissy?
Yes.
Ernie? Yes. Myself, yes. Motion carried. All that information gathered for the San Luis.
Done.
Done, they have it?
They do.
We finished it, actually 2 days after we had that meeting last time.
Good job. Thanks for all your work.
Yeah,
I know that
there's
was
a lot of digging on that, on your side.
Me and the corporal, we went through, we had to physically count in a computer. Everybody.
It was a lot more involved than we hoped it would be. But now, we hope that that's good information to move us forward.
Karen?
That was just my question, so they've got it,
They
and now
do.
we'll be just, any minute, be waiting to hear back from them,
We
correct?
turned it in, we turned it into Tom, the one that asked us to
Yep,
approve it, and we sent out everything we had. We did all the calculations for them, we put it all in one paper, they sent it, and we sent it off.
Very
So
good.
what they said, it was gonna take us 2 weeks, it took us a couple of days, once we found a way around.
good.
Very good. Anything else?
That's all I have unless you guys have any questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Jason?
Morning.
Morning, Jason.
A couple of things that came through Friday. I need to hand out. List of signatures, all that fun stuff, and then I'm gonna change around the schedule a little bit. So that Ron can get out of here, doesn't have to sit through.
Yeah, it's 10:25, so
Oh, yeah, we're early.
we got ahead of ourselves. Good job.
Leadership.
What do you got? Thank you.
The first thing I wanna do is, and adjust get the topics a little bit and bring up the probation office move. Just as-
Julie Gamble wants to be here for that, so we'll
Okay,
start with that.
Yeah, so, yeah.
so we'll have to wait.
I told her 10:25, that was when we were starting, so.
Okay.
That's not that long.
All right, then I guess we can go to the next one at the top of the list for drain permits. Had 6 permits in front of you for signatures and authorizations today. 2 from Zick, or 7, I guess. We have 2 from Zickman's. 1 from Fuller Communications, 1 from Terry Novak, 1 from Murdoch Brothers. That were out in your initial packets, and the additional ones today are for Cabro Farms and Jay Scoreline. The Cabro Farms also has a utility permit attached to it as well. And all these permits are for culverts and working our ditches. The Cabro Farms is for a drain tile application that's under the 80-acre limit for the water board.
Let's start with the Murdoch Brothers. That's the first one in our packet on the, it'll be easier to follow.
It's all, Mr. Chairman, it's, most of this is all just cleaning drainage ditches, so I mean.
Cleaning, well, not drainage ditches.
I'm sorry.
Cleaning the road ditches.
Yeah, road ditches.
Or a culvert, or culvert applications, or the replacing existing culverts.
This is that one that we.
Those going up on County 1 and 32, where we'll have a spot where we'll have to work with them to make sure we'll just gradually clean it and don't make any large cuts.
Does that cut say 12 inches?
Yeah, he says max to 12 inches.
Okay.
We shouldn't have to do anything that drastic in anything there. It already has a flow through it. So it shouldn't take 12 inches to make it run. We don't need to make it run at top speed, just flow.
Remember we were talking about it, that if you went too deep, it would just,
It'll
it'll cut everything to the east.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And it'll just create an issue because of too much of the culvert, we're not gonna adjust the culvert on the other end of it. There's a 9-foot drop between where he wants to start and the end, so I don't understand why there would ever take 12 inches to make the water flow.
I think between the,
Yeah.
we're there to over to that drain.
Doesn't look like it.
No, sure doesn't.
Do we wanna approve these separately or all in one? or-
They're all approved by the water board?
All are approved by the water.
Okay.
Do they pay for their own culverts or?
Yes.
Can we do them all in one?
Yeah.
All right, we'll wait to do them all in one time. Kevin Zickman?
He's got 2, one for a clean out along County 19, another one for a new crossing or 65-foot crossing. It's been approved by the water board on both of those as well.
Make sure these guys don't go deeper in the ditch than the culverts. They like to dig 2 feet deeper, then you get nothing but silt and everything filling up a gap hill, so.
It's to clean it so it flows, not to
Yeah.
clean it so we have a catching basin. I don't want the water sitting in there, otherwise it'll create a issue with the road that will saturate it, so I agree with that.
Both those for Zickman's all right with everybody? So next one.
Carry it on.
Turn it away. It's extension off of an existing culvert, so to make it safer for the equipment to turn into a approach.
Terry Novak?
Yep.
No problem with that one? What's next? Or
Polar is to extend an existing culvert so they can get into their new shop. Building on the north side of Park River off of 12.
any problem with that one? Next.
Jay's score line. That's to clean up about 300 yards of silt in the ditch, towards the culvert that's on 11, just outside of Adams.
You good with that up there? You good with that up there?
Just clean this,
Yeah.
Any problem with that one?
What's next? Cabro Farms. They're gonna be putting in a tile system for 55 acres. Well, their permits are actually two, one for a flow easement, so they can do some work to make sure it drains on the tile off of County 15, a mile east of Peasant. The other is for utility to get power underneath the road. So they have two different permit applications for us today. The water board agreed, it's right next to, about a quarter inch or a quarter of a mile, half a mile, drain that's east of Peasant, so the water will just flow down into that.
Or green to that one.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
The problem with Cave Road?
That's it.
That's it for the drainage permits?
Make a motion to approve drainage permits.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Call for the vote, Christie,
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carried.
Next item on my agenda is North Dakota DOT bridge inspection bills. There's two of them, for motion for signatures. The first one is for $300.43. The other one's for $6,020.08.
So move. Second.
Any further discussion on paying the bridge inspection bills?
I don't know, I didn't even have a chance to look. I'm still trying to pull
Oh, it's right underneath the permit, sorry.
Any further discussion on the bridge inspection? We'll call for the vote, Ernie.
No, I don't think we're getting our money's worth out of these discussions.
Christie?
Well, I would agree. But if we vote no, we have happens if we don't pay them?
I don't know what they'll do with the contract if we don't pay them.
I'm just doing it to make a point.
Kristen?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Myself, yes.
And the reason is the last time we had a bridge inspection 1 year later, they say the base was rotting and we didn't have a flood. So how good are these inspections?
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Well, and we're not even looking at them anymore. We're making a motion and we're just saying we're gonna pay them. We didn't even take the time to research them and look at them, and I disagree with that. We need to know what we're paying. And I know we can look at it that way. And had, but I wanted to discuss it a little more.
Well, we can discuss it more. I don't think we've taken the vote.
Yeah,
I guess if Jason brings us the bill and he's looked over it, I know nothing about how to critique that. And I'm not trying to push this through, but I agree with Ernie and Christie.
It's not as you and I are looking at, I feel comfortable with stuff, but it just, bottom line, we're not getting our money's worth. That's just, I don't know how they can, it reminds me of the jail now, when everybody was doing this and slapping their fingers and not telling us how to fix anything. They're doing the same thing with the bridges, and we're finding out more and more that last year they inspected, and now they rated it lower this year and it rotted in 1 year. Why wasn't it there last year and it didn't flood? It doesn't make sense.
Different inspector.
Well, I don't know if it was on this one, was it?
one wasn't, one was.
One was, yeah, it just. Whatever.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I trust, Jason, that you are, when these bills are coming, you are making sure that we're not doubling up or paying for something we shouldn't be, or, because there's no way we would know that.
Right. I have the list of bridges that are coming to inspect and looking at those. We were trying to get ahead of them and do some of the repairs before they got there, so we don't have to pay for a double inspection of them. Because if they find something and we go and fix it, and they come back, then they hit us for another inspection. If it's something that we have to have re-inspected. So we could open a bridge or something, they will ding us for a second time, but they kind of have to in most instances.
So you know ahead of time which bridges they're going to inspect, so you can be
We can look at
proactive, send you guys out there, have them look at it,
We're
fix
looking.
what you can. So we are on that schedule.
Yeah, we're working on, we're trying to get more proactive that way, so we can get those ahead. We're working towards that more and more, so.
Okay, good.
We have less time, when we're ripping apart the bridges and replacing, we have less time to go out in front of them with the feed those stuff at the beginning of the year. Be nice to not have a flood year, so you can get ahead of this stuff even better, so. Otherwise, we lose the first couple of months just doing repairs along that lines, so.
So our bridge guys are busy.
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They were, last week, when it was almost 100 degrees, they were out replacing bridge deck until 4 in the afternoon, and then they decided it was probably too hot to be out there, so. They're out there, they're burning it, so.
You'll see in the updates what they've done.
Yeah.
County Road 9.
County Road 9, and 12 paving update. The paving is pretty much done except for some cleanups and some final touches on some striping, final paintwork type things. So just looking for a motion to approve the first payment of $3,153,938.42. Ron's staff is probably gonna get a lot extra work on number 9 now because it's pretty smooth. So.
I will make a motion that we make that initial payment.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion is second, any further discussion? Now we'll call for the vote. Karen,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Christie,
Yeah.
Ernie,
Yes.
yourself, yes, motion carried.
Next is a bridge update. With number County 6, west of Pintas, they're It says under 20, so it's not inspected. But we've been watching it for the last year and some pieces were failing us. So before we had issues with it, Ryan and the guys went and totally took the deck off, took all the girders off, straightened back up the caps, straightened up the guard, packed everything back in, added another piece of steel to it, and put all new plank back on top. So it took them 2 weeks to do that project. So that road, County 6 was closed for 2 weeks now, it's back open again until we close it when we get parts to replace the next bridge under contract with Swing. So they were out there with that one, replacing that, getting those things taken care of. So that's where they were for the last 2 weeks. Kind of rolls into the next one with the.
If we can, just let's jump ahead to the probation of Julie's here for probation office.
Over the probation office move. I guess there's been talk about probation moving from their existing location into the courthouse. They were looking at other spots. What I've been told is the upstairs, the zone doesn't work. Could be an issue with people that are there for help with people that are there for probations. So I can agree with that. I've heard that there's the JDA is possibly moving out of here. Last I knew that there was not a contract signed for the JDA to be moving out of here into the regional council for a contract for 3 years, is the rumor I heard. So there's that portion, and then there's possibility of the probation moving into the JDA's office. Probation has looked at the building, they've looked at the rooms, showed it to them a couple of times. They were looking at square footages the other day, and that's all what I can give you on.
I talked to them yesterday. I talked to their supervisor from Grand Forks. He called me and he said that it would work, and they'd be willing to, take up that office space.
Which office space?
The
Here.
the one in the
Okay.
courthouse.
Did you mention rental?
I think that was mentioned from the start. They're looking for a contract to sign,
Okay.
a lease.
Julie, have anything there?
Julie Gemmel from the Walsh County, I'm the board chair for the Walsh County JDA. We are still negotiating the contract with regional council. However, I hope to have that signed today. I talked to Don this morning and we just had a couple of kinks to work out and it should be a go. I asked her about moving out of this office and we need some time because there's a lot of stuff from the last 30 years that needs to be gone through and so she said it would be reasonable that we could vacate that office by about the middle of September, if that would work.
They, probation said that, they could wait till October 1st to occupy that space, so.
We would be willing to give it up. We're gonna move over to the regional council once the contract gets signed. We would also, be in favor of selling your office desk if you're interested in obtaining that, or if they are interested in obtaining that. We just have to do some research and see what we paid for it and what it's worth. Cause it's not gonna fit over in the other office, so. That's something we could work out too.
That desk ain't that old, is it?
No.
Couple years, 2, 3?
Oh, no, it's longer than that.
Is it? See, that's how time
Probably
flies.
5 or 6 years old.
Yeah, I would say at least 5, because Julie got it. Yep. Julie was the one that got it, so.
Yeah, she had it for at least.
That's how time flies.
Maybe it's even like 7 years old or something like that, but.
Yep.
It's a while ago, but it's still in brand new condition. I mean, it hasn't been used now for almost a whole year.
So when does probation want a contract if they can sign? Did it say anything or
Probably sooner than later if they commit to it.
Probably, yeah, I agree.
The only other problem that we have, and this is just a logistic, is there's some stuff being stored in there from another entity that's in that middle room or the storage room area. So that would have to be, I think it's the beautification group or something, has a bunch of stuff in there. If they wanna use, you know, if that group,
Probably
That's
wanna, I think they wanna occupy all the offices.
All
I
of
was
it.
gonna say, they probably have to get that out of there.
yeah, so they'll have to get that out of there, but they would be given the same deadline we would have, so. That sound workable?
Do we need a motion? or-
Well, if you're gonna set up a contract, I would.
Well, yeah, we can.
I told them that they would have to pay rent. That's up to you guys to decide what that is.
We should probably have discussion on it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we can do that later.
Yeah.
Next meeting.
Well, we won't forget about it.
Oh, she'll put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I think we should do some research in the square,
Yeah.
what is the average rental rate per square foot
Right.
per square foot, so.
Christie one will put it on the agenda.
I'm doing it right now, making a note.
So you'll be out by mid-September then? you
We
said?
should be out by mid-September.
If not, we were for sure by October first, and if we know you're going in October first, our probation is going in October first.
Okay.
So I have a little time to get through some stuff.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
So it's the desk in that big office, right, that you would. Yeah. in that,
Yeah.
Where Chris Lipsch had his office.
Yes, yeah, I don't have a key, so.
But Jason does,
Okay,
so,
so you guys can look at it if you
yeah,
want.
okay,
Yeah,
and you let me know, right?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, or
Okay.
Angela will let you know,
Okay.
Bryce, I'm not gonna get involved.
well, and
Thanks,
that's
Julie.
all good to me.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thanks.
So the next update I had on our list, if there's no other questions on probation, I can try and ask, see around what some different prices are, I guess, for office spaces and different things, and figure out like a square footage of what the room is, and go from there, bring it up to the next commission meeting.
I guess, so I'm clear on this. This is, how many counties are involved in this?
Probation,
Yeah.
not sure, and if it's just Walsh.
Yeah, it's just Walsh County
Just
probation.
Walsh.
Yeah, it's the,
Probation.
yeah, the
The
probation
district
that,
law enforcement
from the law
office, so-
enforcement.
Yeah.
It's our county.
They come out of Grand Forks.
That were the state.
There's two of them here, and they added a third, so they have 3 people in the offices here now. So they're spread out over in the law enforcement center, so it's put them in one,
But they're state employees,
yes.
so the state would be renting this?
They don't let us in.
Let's make a trade.
But it's
Bridge inspection.
our county that they're serving.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
That's what it means.
All right.
I thought of it, but I didn't look at it.
I didn't say anything. Grafton Township Bridge update.
Yeah, so we kind of the Dushik Bridge, this is in Grafton Township, that had been closed last fall during sugar beets. It has been removed, the culverts are in place. The road is almost back to being put together, and they pretty much just had cleanup and some riprap to install, and we will be down one bridge.
Nice.
And which also means down one bridge inspection. So it's a twofer off of my list. So, site was out there this morning, looks really good. There'll be some cleanup and stuff. Might be some materials that we can haul away that'll be sitting there in the ditches for a little bit, so we can finish up with the project that our bridge guys are on before they can go and pick up some materials. There are some bridge girders and things that are there that, we may be able to salvage some of them will probably end up at the scrap yard just for twists and not be usable for anything else. So we'll take a look at that. Sometimes we can keep them to use them as dead man anchors too, so it'll be something we can bury and cable off to, so we'll be making sure we use it wisely, to try and keep costs down. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, where is this located at?
This one's in Grafton Township, between section 31 and 32. So from the South Trinity Church, it would be 1 mile to the east and 3/4 miles south.
Okay.
So for Ernie.
Yeah.
Okay. So township.
So that one's.
What's a douche?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, so that one's about finished up, so that'll be good. County 19 bridge update, Swingen has rolled into that one. They are in the bypass. When they were taking down the existing bridge, they put their jackhammers on the excavators and hardly had to turn them on. They pushed them through and it basically crumbled. So it's a very good thing that we were proactive with that. And that we were looking at replacing it before we had any other issues, because instead of a 1-year bypass, we'd be looking at a 3-year bypass.
Are you talking the Fordville Bridge?
The Fordville Bridge. And probably at least a 3-year bypass. If we wouldn't have caught that, because by the time we would have gotten to the study, the funding and everything put together for it, it would probably have been 3 years before we could have had a new bridge up there.
Wow.
Money comes to the process.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that when people talk about our bridges and different things, it's not as simple as just going and getting a bridge and throwing it in there. The design process, the EPA, the cultural, historical that has to be done for all these sites, those can take us a year before we get approval and then to find the funding for it on top of it. And that bridge alone is over $1 million. And we have multiple bridges like that around here, so it's a large ordeal, and we have a lot of bridges. I was taking a look at a count for our under 20 bridges. I have to modify or accept or approve, make sure they're still there for the upper grade plains transportation institute. And we have about 150 bridges that are under 20 feet that we have to identify as still being in place. And get the measurements and the different information for them so they can work on the study that they're doing for the legislature. So there's probably another 100 of those bridges, 100, maybe 150 that we don't have to take a look at. So we're gonna have a lot of inspections that I'll have to pull people and to go and do to take care of those. The bridge guys are gonna be doing bridge work. They're gonna be tied up for a while. So I won't be able to just take the bridge crew off to send them out to do it. So it's gonna be an all hands on deck because it has to be done by this fall for the verifications. And so that'll be another one of those pieces. The guys got their hands full because they're now at the Olson Bridge.
Mr. Chairman, I'm wondering if, they take the whole state as a whole to get this done. There's some places that hardly have any bridges. If it came down to it, would they give us an extension of 2 weeks?
Not to get their study done. In order for them to get their study, they're gonna have to, and so we can get the maximum out of it, we're gonna have to have our information. So. But this-
Just wondering,
And this just all came down in
Yep.
the last week.
Yeah, I saw the email from Association of Counties.
Well, that's a different program.
Well, that's completely different?
That's completely different.
Oh. That was the one I was thinking that we could, okay.
So is this just to take an inventory
These are to make sure that they uploaded a system from from the DOT for all the old bridges that were under 20 feet that are not inspected by the state. We have about 300 of them at one point that were recorded. So we have to go through those and verify that they're still in existence, if they've been improved, if they've been updated, what the materials have been to them. And we get that information to them so they can try and assess what our true needs are for bridge replacements, to include the bridges that in the townships, to include all our bridges and not just the ones that the state inspects.
Okay, because I just remember Sharon doing an inventory of these bridges under 20 feet, so I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that in case it was anything you could utilize.
They have that map and the stuff that Sharon had,
Okay.
but they still have to have a bunch of information that didn't cross or whatever, so we have to approve it. Yeah, so
Just wanted
at
to
least
mention
half of them are done,
Okay.
so, but that'll be something that we'll be having to work on, and I'll have to pull guys forward.
They don't give you much time, do they?
No. Nope. As I mentioned, the guys are at the Olson Bridge. They were we were hoping that all we would have to do is remove the north span and replace that cap to get the bridge back open. They got out halfway through to the center span, and Ryan gave me a call. We got Wade Thompson out there with KLJ, and we're going to have to take off the entire deck, the entire girders, replace all the caps. The center cap got cracks and is rotten. So we weren't sure how, when you see the one cap, how they missed that one. So that's another one I have pictures of to talk to DOT. I have to, but Brian Fuchs is no longer there. So we'll be sending emails to a couple of people until they announce his full-time replacement. Right now, they have 3 people covering what Brian was doing. So I will be reaching out to them today to let them know. We have a plan that once we get this put back together, that bridge will not need to be posted. So it'll go from being, a couple of years ago, it was 31 ton. Last year, they dropped it down to 5 ton. This year, they dropped it to 0. And next year, when we're done with this, we'll be back over being an unposted bridge. So we'll be back over that 30 ton. We'll probably have to, we're looking at our stock of things that we've taken from old bridges. We think we can use some of that stuff. I'm also gonna take a look and see if we can, buy some longer span girders that from Sweden that we can put in if they have anything, or some new steel, so that this is something we don't have to take a look at anytime in the near future. But that'll depend on availabilities, otherwise we're moving forward with a different plan where we won't have to worry about it, or it won't be posted, be the best part. But this project went from being a 2-week to 3 to 4. So hopefully we don't uncover anything else as we take things apart, but guys are out there working on that again this morning, so that's where they're at with that one. That's why I say they won't be available for anything else at the moment. One bridge update I did forget to put on there is number 9. We may have some, we haven't got a chance to get eyes on the culverts that were available for pricing to see if they're good for us. We may have a solution to replace that permanently with 2. Might just be 2. We might have found 2 culverts to do it that are already in the area and can speed up our time for access to it, or we're gonna have to order them. So we're working on, KLJ is working on those calculations. They should have those in the next day or so. We're verifying the pipe is actually, the culverts are actually good enough. That will be a permanent replacement. So we can move forward with it. And even if not, if it's the size, we're looking at with the water board, we're talking, we just put them in for now so we can make it go, but we're hoping it will be a permanent. But big possibility yet. It's the best chance to get that thing open for this fall's harvest. So we're pushing.
Yeah.
So that'll be a large project. The next update that I have for you on the agenda is FEMA 2023. In the FEMA world is now DR 4717. We had one meeting last week. Brent, myself, and Sarah met with their initial presentations to talk about things. The initial letter had to be submitted and signed by the 4th. We already had that done. I verified that paperwork, what they did receive that had to be done by the 4th to say we are participating in it. There's a meeting on Thursday, August 3rd, for a 406 mitigation meeting for recovery. And then the next step for the 4717 will be another meeting for which basically the kickoff. Right now, they're assigning people to us from DES and FEMA. And there'll be a kickoff on August 20th, 27th. And that one is going to be in the heart of harvest when we start calling in township officers who are farmers and tell them we need your information for the spring flood of 2023. So here we are in August, in the middle of everybody's busiest time, and we're gonna be bugging them. But our hands are tied in that process. So we've been sending out, Fred's been sending out emails on it to all the township officers, so let them know where we're at. Once we get a person assigned, then they'll pick a date for us to have our meeting. We'll try and bring everybody into the farmer's room. I'm gonna try and get them here in person, but DES is short-staffed. And they told us they're short-staffed, that in their first meeting. So they're gonna have less people, and it'll probably be a more drawn-out process than last year, which we were just finishing.
Sure, yeah.
is there anything they can do ahead of time, like they physically have to be present, or is there any way with them being short-staffed, you think it would make sense that they could, you know, we could let them know now or ahead of time if there's things that they need to present so that it doesn't have to be.
The
in
townships
August?
already know they should already know what they have to be producing.
Yeah,
Pictures and measurements and sites, they
Same
should have,
thing, different
it's the
year.
same thing, so hopefully they've been preparing all that information, getting all their invoices. If they can have all their invoices and everything put together, right from the start, and we can throw it all at FEMA first, and get in there first, there's chances of being done first.
Mhm.
So, because they'd be able to move through, so it's gonna be up to us to make sure that we have everything that they need. If you think they have enough pictures, then they need more, because that's basically been the problem last year, is more pictures, more pictures, more pictures. We've been telling them this at the Township Association meetings, and stressing this during the process of last year's flood project. So we'll be doing that again with them again this year. The paperwork that they all had to do last year, they need to do it again this year, so it'll be a push. From the time that we have our meeting in that week of August 20th, somewhere in there, we'll have 60 days to get it turned around. Any of the information not turned in that 60 days, we can try and get an extension for it, but it's just gonna drop the process more, and I don't know how willing they're gonna be to give us extensions. So it's pretty much a 60-day window from the time we have that meeting to get everything done. Which is gonna create a lot of headaches, considering the time of year we're in. And a lot of pushing from my office to get us the information.
Karen?
It's just like budget, we know it's coming, they know it's coming, do it ahead. I mean, easy for me to say, because I don't have to do it, but if they have the same information, that they're not same information, but the same process, the same things to fill out. Take your phone, keep taking pictures, you got it all.
Just be proactive.
Yeah,
Well, then you have to have GPS sites with it all now.
yeah.
So the GPS coordinates for each site, and drawing that, putting all that information together. They don't really come to the sites, you probably won't see anybody at sites, it's basically virtual inspections.
Mhm.
But when they do come to the sites, you gotta make sure your sites are actually legit too.
Yep.
Because we had problems with that last year where when they actually did come to take a look at some sites, there was no way that that site could have ever flooded. But it was listed as a project.
Well, when they-
Well, that's
So
why
now-
we're getting to be more of a stickler, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, if people turn in stuff that shouldn't be turned in,
Yes.
of course they're gonna want GPS points.
Which takes more time in our office to make
Yeah.
sure everything is.
Creating our own problems.
Exactly.
More micro.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at with that one. I just wanted to let everybody know where we're at with that. The last one is our biggest one lately. I've had a lot of phone calls on this in the last couple of days. It's the Township Assistance Program. The Township Assistance Program is basically, I guess, easiest way to explain it is a reappropriation of the $10 million that the townships were supposed to be able to apply for a grant based last biennium. DOT was not able to come up with the matching grant for it to fund it. So this year legislatures turned that into actual project money to go to townships. So they turned that over to DOT. DOT has now turned that over to Upper Great Plains Transportation Institute and the county highway departments. So the Township Assistance Program is, all that information has to be collected right now as well, the same time as FEMA, and actually has to be submitted by September 8th. That means my office has to enter into the system. We only get one sign-in for this program that Tammy and I have to share. Each county only gets one. So every township has to submit all their sites to us, so we can put them in the program for Upper Great Plains and the GRIP program and get it turned in. So I sent out a letter to all the townships and an email stating that they had to get their stuff into me by the 25th of August to make sure we can get it in. After the 25th of August, I can't guarantee that their information is gonna be implemented. Since that email has came out, or this program was going live, and it was gonna be put in our hands at the county highways, basically, in Upper Great Plains to spearhead it. We got more information as to application process. Only the townships that are at 18 mills and above can apply for this funding.
For any of ours over 18.
We have 14 townships that can apply for it.
I got a call last night from a township officer.
We have one township that's at 6 mills.
So they get penalized for being frugal.
Yeah.
And yet they put it in paper and it sounded so good that the townships were gonna get money.
Yeah. So we have 14 townships that'll actually be able to apply for this process. But, you know, there's some talk about it being opened up to others, but a second wave, but I don't see it opening up for a second wave. I see them putting this money out there one time and funding the bigger projects and being done with it and moving on. They're looking at it as a way to, take it and give the funding to the townships that are going and doing their maximum and funding to maintain their roads and bridges and making sure that giving them the extra assistance because they're basically rewarding them. But if you've been maintaining your roads and your bridges and you're underneath that 18%, you weren't charging it because you didn't need it, now you can't get it. And the only way they could get to the 18 mills is to put it in a public notification and have their township budget amended into Christie by the 10th. It's
Of August?
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, it was Saturday they announced
Yes.
the 18 mil. So Saturday evening, it sounded like, so yesterday after our meeting, we got bombarded with those, so I found all the certifications, and we were going to, in our office, send out to the ones that are under 18, make that a priority, so let them know. But then we found out that, yes, they have to have it 10 days, they have to post their meeting 10 days in advance, and I have to have it by August 10th. So it's too late. It's too late, it's unfortunate. I mean, I wish we would have known a week ago, because we would have made that a priority.
But to apply for money that they don't even know if they're gonna get, right?
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, and then it has to, then in the middle of harvest, we have to get this done at the same time you're doing FEMA stuff. And it's all wrapped up and put onto the county highway departments, so.
It's almost like they made it impossible for them to apply.
Yeah, yeah.
I bet they knew that the dates, 'cause if they don't need the money, you know, if they're not taxing, they don't need the state funding, then.
But some of those guys are so frugal. And I know what they're saying, they probably could really use it because they've been saving money and not spending it.
Absolutely.
And now they're sort of getting penalized both ways.
Yes, I agree. It's unfortunate.
But basically with a program like this coming out, if there ever was another version like this, every township is gonna have to make sure they're at that maximum of 18 mils without going over that. And then there's a couple of townships that are just right underneath it. So, you know, we're talking a half a mil or less. And they have that magic number at 18, so you have to get your max mills without going to the public vote to get it increased in order to apply for this funding. So they're almost making it to the point where every township is going to have to be at 18 mils all the time, just in case extra funding comes through to help us.
And then they're gonna pick on them for overtaxing.
They set the tone.
Yep.
So that's where we're at from what came out of that portion, so. We've been taking a lot of phone calls on that, I'll have a few more. One of the calls I talked to a couple times yesterday, I have to call them and give them the bad news that they don't qualify.
Mr. Chairman, this is the first time they've done this, right?
Yes.
This program.
Yeah, the legislature just approved this program this last session.
All right.
With that, that's everything on my long list of items for you today.
We had
It didn't
a,
take as long as I thought.
yeah,
That's okay, we'll.
additions to the agenda, one of them was county park coming down,
Yes.
kind of in a state of disrepair. Lawn hasn't been mowed, weeds haven't been taken care of. We've gotta get,
I've talked to Susan in the past, in the last couple of weeks when these things were being brought up to me with you guys about mowing, tracking where she's mowing and the different processes of it. I'll make a point to go out there this week and verify with my eyes. I haven't been on site.
Make sure you document or put something in your file.
We'll do.
Take pictures.
Yeah, we're getting complaints.
The other,
yeah, go ahead.
the other thing is it is just starting to look plain trashy. It's just not the lawn and the weeds. There's junk that needs to be cleaned up, and it's not the way our county park should look.
We took a roll off of the string of junk out of that park, so most of it came out of the buildings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there should be some consistency to mowing. Unless we haven't had rain for 2 months, it's typical, we don't need to mow, but there's always weeds. Those weeds have been there for years, we know where they are. Maybe she can get into some kind of routine, mow on a Thursday, so it's nice for the weekend. I guess that's kind of how it's been done, not that everybody has to do things the same, but we want the park to look nice. We want it to look nice for the weekend, and the pictures that I saw of yesterday were there still from, when we had the soil tour. I don't know why we're growing weeds there, and I know that the lawn was way overdue. It just needs to be done every so often, and if we're getting timesheets that says mowing, just, mow, this is what we did, 8 hours of work. I don't know where 8 hours of work have come in for 2 people, because nothing has been done. And we have to keep those weeds up because it's just gonna get worse.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the excuse is, but it needs to get done.
And I know Denny said even looking at a picture, I mean, some of the weeds have gone to seed, so they've never been touched since this. What is this tarp covering that's over
The
by?
chips,
Wood chips.
It's the very first thing you see when you drive into the park, and it's very unsightly.
Did
It's
they
not
put
what
up
you
that
should see.
shed that we had talked
No,
about?
no.
That's never happened.
No, I haven't gotten an invoice for it, so we haven't.
I think Sharon had those chips there when she was there.
No,
They were piled there, that one, yes, they were extra
They were.
chips we had, yes.
Were they covered with a tarp?
I don't remember that, all I know is remember we had extra chips that one, year. We ordered extra.
Mr. Chairman, in my book, there is absolutely no excuse that we have thistle that are this tall next to buildings. And that's just plain a lack of doing your job. The job is not being done. It needs to get resolved immediately.
You'll address it.
Yeah.
The other thing was, crack sealing, where are we at on that?
They were pulling out, they pulled up that while Mail was here at the plant, so they could do some blade patching. And they've got most operations wrapped up, now they're going back to doing their mastic on operations. It's too late in the year, the cracks are for the actual crack sealer, for that to go into them, because that's for the small cracks. So they'll be back out on 15 and working on that stuff. Also, Jerry is one of the only guys that has applicator license for us, so we'll be doing cattail spraying here soon as well. So we try to kill some of those down before fall and mowing, so.
Christie?
No, wait, you had another question?
Well, on the crack sealing, I mean, how many miles did we have to do and how many got done?
They got like 5 miles done, and it's a long process with the crack sealing to catch up, especially when you're on roads that are 15 to 20 years old. With an oil process, you need to oil, you should really be oiling every year. And it wasn't oiled every year, it was on a rotation for it. The first times we came through the process for the crack sealing is gonna take a while before we can catch up. to where we should be. The mastic goes down a lot faster. And they've gotten, I think, 8 miles of that done.
Does that last longer?
Yes. Yes, with the mastics, you get it filled in, and the crack sealing, it does last a lot longer. Then once you get it through, you can, anywhere from 3 to 5 years to have to go back through it.
So how many miles did we normally do in a year?
Like 20 with the oil, I believe is what it was.
So we did, prior to going to this mastic
Mastic and the
system,
crack
we
seal.
used to do 20 miles, now we did 5 miles. So we're doing about a quarter of,
We're at like 13 between the two, yes. It's less than what we were. It's a longer process than what it was,
do you still feel this is a better system to go to?
yes.
Because,
We're not getting moisture into the cracks. Once it's sealed up with the mastic and the crack sealant, you're not getting water down there. So when the water gets down it, like on 15, when you get moisture down there, you got the traffic over it, you're pumping your fines up. That gives you your depressions as you feel with everything. With the mastic going over the top of it, and if you drive the road from 18 to Vestibule where we've got the mastic down, it's a much smoother. The water can't get penetrated into it, and it keeps our sub base so protected. So we're not getting that moisture in there. We're not getting, it should be cutting down on our future potholes. It should touch off all that where the moisture gets down, trapped in there, and then does your damages.
so how do we catch up? Because we're way behind now, right?
Start out earlier, as soon as we can with it. They're out there with it, more crews. So I could have the mastic and the crack seal going at the same time with more staff, but we don't have a budget to add more staff. Well, because we're doing the gravel and the asphalt, we got the bridges, we're staffed out. So we could use more staff for every part of it, you know, it's work, and that's just not an option.
Just a concern I have is these roads that don't get taken care of, they're just gonna bust up all the faster if they don't get sealed.
Yeah, well, the way we work, we have 170 miles of asphalt in the department, so every 2 years, we still weren't covering it all with oil. It was a 4-year process, so we're still having the same issues. So we have these issues, but now, like next year, 19 will have to be a priority. We spent that money in to asphalt it, the chip seal. It has to be the priority where the entire road gets crack sealed next year. And then the other thing is we can go back out this fall and start crack sealing again. So once it gets colder, when the cracks start to open up, we can go back out and crack seal in the fall. So it's not just an oil temperature type of thing, as long as the roads are 40 degrees, we can go back out there and crack seal. So the plan is to have more crack seal on hand, so we can go back out this fall. They won't be doing that much out this fall.
We won't have the summer labor, but.
No, we'll have to pull guys out of that are doing gravel trucks and be out of it as part of that. True. Good. We'll have to be with our staff. We don't have the summer labor to start in April either, but we're gonna have to start pressing the envelope and pulling staff and moving some of that stuff around from internally to get more done.
I got a call about potholes, or frost boils, I should say.
They're horrible this year.
Yeah.
They're just not firming up. 19A by Travis Bell's is horrible there.
That's the one I
32-1 is horrible. We're gonna have to dig up the road and put rock and tile or something in there to try and help keep that moisture out of it and do that. And that process is done with the same guys that are rebuilding my bridges. So we need the excavators for that. So we're strapped.
Is there any way we can hire outside?
We can find some people again, yeah, but I don't have much for funding for outside staff for those type of things, but we can take a look at it. I'll have to crunch some numbers and see where we're at.
The concern is these guys coming into harvest now and having these frost boils to deal with.
Yeah, and we've been pouring gravel to it, and normally they firm up, but we don't understand why they're not firming up this year.
No rain to help them? Rain will settle everything, you know. it's fine.
I don't know, I mean, when you get the frost boils, it's normally due to moisture and other issues with the road. So if you think about putting more dry material, not the rains, it would be helping. And the heat should help it, but this year it's just not. We're not sure what's going on. If something else is changing underneath the road base, or has it gone to the point where it's had so much before, where it's on the seam and cracked through. I don't have an answer for it.
Well, we for sure need to get it signed. It's very dangerous there, and the little red flag buried by grass in the ditch does not cut it. So it needs to be signed, that it's,
I'll get Chad out there with that and have him do that this week, so.
But that, I mean, that particular stretch never gets a chance to heal up anyway.
No. that's my concern.
Pounding it all the time.
It's constant traffic on it, so it does not get, it's because Travis is going from his one approach to his next, it's
Yeah.
constant.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get a chance to,
Something else we can do or what, I don't know.
could we reroute him somehow?
I don't know how you reroute it. I
I
don't,
don't know.
and build another road inside the right of way, and then you got two, because that's the only stuff we have is inside the right of way, so.
Still got the water problem underneath it's causing it though. Well, as long as you're addressing it, I don't know what more we can do, but. At least get it signed, you know.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
All right, anything else for Jason?
We still got interviews on Friday,
So waiting for phone calls back, yes,
one or two,
two.
For sure.
let me know.
I'm still trying to finalize it, so.
Okay, just let me know.
Anything else for Jason? If not, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jason.
Jason, here's your, take another 5 minute break.
Oh, yeah, I need
Will you
to.
hold it?
Yeah.
We'll jump ahead to some of that other, excuse me, unfinished other business. Intergovernmental review constitution.
Yes, so I should have sent that to each of you. So USDA, I had worked with Chris on it, and she thought it was in our best interest to bring it to you guys to have your thoughts on it, I guess. The gentleman, Isaac, emailed me again yesterday wondering if I was gonna fill out the form. So the form is the last 2 pages. Curious what your guys' thoughts were on it. It should have been an agenda.
Yeah.
What actually is it? Yeah, I don't know.
They are looking at the very back, they're looking, is it regarding,
It's on page 2 of 8. I don't know why we would have to.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I don't either. This is just like what Larry said, you better read it good before you sign it.
Financial assistance. Because the state does not have. So if you don't respond, they just will keep moving. That's what I think.
Attachment one.
This is something we should talk to the water board about. I don't know that.
Are they aware of it?
well, on here now, it says project name on the form, Walsh Rural Water District Service from NIWD.
They're trying to tie all these little water
Like
districts
Walsh
together
Water,
into
yeah.
one.
Oh.
That'd be the best thing that'd happen.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely,
But are we going on about it? Maybe we should talk to the water board on this and see what they think.
Or talk to Brian, at Walsh Water. This is Walsh Rural
looking for
Water
a mower.
District. Brian,
Yeah, I can't think of
Brian-
that.
Riley?
Brian, yeah, what's,
Riley?
yeah, from Walsh Water. I say table this and talk to
Yeah.
him about it,
Or maybe have them come in next meeting.
yeah, well, send this to him.
Who was it? I'm sorry.
Brian Riley, he's the president of WRWD, Walsh Rural.
Walsh Water.
Rural district.
Yeah, okay.
I think he'd be aware of it.
well, I'm all in favor, because this is gonna go by, right, I mean, we don't have any water pressure at our place to. You can just barely take a shower sometimes.
Oh, jeez.
That'd be a good
Yeah, no
thing,
kidding.
yeah.
Really?
Which they're saying is gonna affect the water pressure in our area.
Yeah, it'll take our water.
It's
I'm
gonna-
not signing
They're,
this.
they're tying in with Langdon,
Langdon.
and like, everything from Walsh Water up to our place is uphill, or Langdon is downhill.
That, remember back in the old days when, it's probably 25 years ago, when they lost pressure, they did those loops. Cause everybody was taking, all the farmers were taking water for the
Oh, I remember that.
spraying in the cattle, and there's a loop like these in Park River. Well, that's sort of what some of this is, and it's a good deal.
But I don't know just what exactly they're,
Yeah, I think you want his input.
yeah. All right, we'll table that for now. Then you'll contact Brian for the
Yes.
next meeting.
I sure will.
Kelly, if you want to take the hot seat, we'll
Okay.
go right in with you.
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Money?
Planning and zoning update?
Yes, not exactly sure what you wanted me to report on. Did you all review the information I sent out by email? Okay, so I sent out a copy of Grand Forks County zoning resolution. Walsh County has a comprehensive plan. It was put in place back in 1994. It was anticipated to plan for the next 20 years. So we're at about 30 years right now. Also, there is, I don't know what any land within Walsh County is zoned as. I'm assuming that there's different zoning, but we do not have a zoning map to indicate, as far as I know, and from looking at notes from the file that's in my auditor's office, there's notes from individuals indicating they can't find the zoning map, which is referred to in this comprehensive plan. So, but that being said, if you're looking at those junk properties, those problem properties, right now, the penalty for the violation is deemed a misdemeanor, but, again, I don't know why I've seen this in a lot of older documents where they deem it a misdemeanor, but then they go on and say the penalty is a fine. So it's not your true misdemeanor violation like what you would think of as a criminal violation, but it's $100 fine for every day that they're in violation of it. But there's no teeth to that $100 fine. So how do you collect that $100 fine other than indicating that they are supposed to pay it? So, so I think the planning and zoning needs to be looked at. We probably need a planning and zoning meeting would be my recommendation. You know, there's a number of things, there's all sorts of century codes that address junkyards within 1,000 feet of the state highway system. There are public nuisances options, either civilly or criminally for maintaining public nuisances. I've reached out to the health department, which we contract with Grand Forks with regard to some of the concerns, I think, especially like the Nash concern. Evidently, he'd been out over the winter, but now he's been out over the summer. He's wondering whether we have an ordinance that actually, a Walsh County ordinance that actually addresses those sorts of property, because he thinks that's more helpful and if that's what he's used to in Grand Forks County and Grand Forks City. We do not have any ordinances per se that address that, other than like the planning and zoning clearly addresses it. So it's a non-permitted use to basically store motor vehicles or machinery on a property without getting a permit. With regard to, I think, any commercial, even under industrial, it still has to be. So again, we don't know what it's zoned, but we do know that it probably was not permitted by the planning and zoning board, at least I assume so from the research I can obtain. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's all over the place and I apologize for that, but I kind of need some direction as far as, do we want to look at the planning and zoning and address those issues and look at doing something like Grand Forks County does? It looks like it's pretty clean. You know, they send out a notice. They have 60 days to abate it. If they don't abate it, do we come in and clean it all up and then contract with somebody to do that? Do we do it ourselves? Who's gonna be in charge of that? Do we have a way to investigate properties that are in violation of either the planning and zoning ordinance or as a public nuisance? So.
I think we gotta start somewhere.
Yeah,
I
no,
agree
I
with
know,
planning and zoning.
we do have to start somewhere, I agree with that. But it's also, I know in our planning and zoning ordinance, any citizen can issue a complaint and then there'd be a hearing before the planning and zoning committee for those as well. So there is that whole requirement, and I see that's also contemplated in the Grand Forks ordinance. There's a whole recent brand new updated North Dakota Planning and Zoning Guide from the state that Christie provided. It was just updated in August of 2022. It has lots of good information about zoning things, permitted uses, how to deal with violations, and those sorts of things. So
Where do you get that?
Well, you can find it online. I found it online, but Christie, I think,
Chris had it printed out.
had it printed out in a binder. I think the last one was like 2005 or something, because I came across that one too. So this has been updated.
So if we just Google like North Dakota State Planning and Zoning? we get-
Yes, North Dakota Planning Association put this out. Or, I think, do you guys have the full comprehensive plan? Did we make copies of that?
No, because
Okay.
there's so many, were you gonna email?
I did email the specific portions,
Okay.
but
Yeah, you
I
have
also
that.
think it would be, probably a good idea for you guys to get a copy of the whole actual
Yeah.
plan too.
We
I
do
don't know.
have it. Do our,
21 pages, or is it more?
No, it's a lot more than that. I just gave you,
The main.
I just gave you like specific provisions that I thought you could review and look at to kind of give you an idea of what,
That was called what, comprehensive plan?
yes, which is basically our planning and zoning plan. And I think the Red River Regional Council drafted this, it looks like back in 1993, 94. I think it was approved in 94, so.
Mr. Chairman, I'm assuming that our planning and zoning board members have this.
Yes, I'm assuming they
I
do.
hope they do. So when you talked about how you enforce it, what kind of teeth? So if somebody is issued a fine, how else do we enforce it? How was their teeth? If they don't pay it, do they get visited by the deputy? I don't know.
Oh, as far as, well, this fine, and that's again, is this civil or is this criminal? It doesn't really indicate that in the
That
planning and
makes
zoning. It
sense,
talks
yeah.
about it being a misdemeanor, but then the only penalty for that is $100 fine. So I think that needs to be clarified. It needs to be cleaner. So are we gonna look at charging these people criminally? Then that process does take quite a bit of time because you're going through the court process. Not that we can't do that under certain circumstances, or if somebody doesn't follow an abatement plan, that we wouldn't be able to do something like that, because anybody who doesn't, there's century code that says if they don't follow through or they remain in violation of our zoning plan, that they're guilty of a Class B misdemeanor. So, and actually to maintain a public nuisance is a Class A misdemeanor. So, but then you have to be able to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt that that they've created a public nuisance by maintaining the property the way they have. So you need investigative agencies to be able to come in and have some expertise and be able to testify with regard to the definition of the public nuisance and those sorts of things.
Can I ask, you mentioned that Walsh County has a good plan in place, could we?
Oh, Grand Forks
I mean,
County,
excuse me,
yes,
Grand Forks
and I did
County
include that
has
with
a
the
plan in place?
materials. Yes,
Is that something we could probably take a look at and mimic?
that's why I included it in there, is that, I think it would have, my understanding is I think it would need to go back to planning and zoning for them to talk about, and then they could refer it then to the
Yeah.
full, county commission, and then that plan, that would be adopted. Essentially.
Yeah.
We actually have a meeting planned August 17th, scheduled at 4:30 on August 17th for planning and zoning. There has not been one since May of 2022, so I will update the agenda and add this to it then.
Would you be able to attend them?
August 17th. Let me look at my schedule, what time?
4:30.
4:30 here?
Yeah, here.
Thursday or Friday?
It's a Thursday, yeah.
That's you and me, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's you and me, isn't it? You don't have a copy of that?
Do you?
Oh, I just got one. I haven't even been to a meeting.
It would be a good idea to just reach out to each member and then at this meeting, or maybe even mail it before the meeting so they have it and even can quick glance through it.
Well, I know Luther probably has a copy of it.
Oh, I wouldn't even know.
I don't know.
Looks like I just have to go to Ramsey County that morning on a conflict case, but I should be back by
Yeah.
mid-afternoon, I would think. So I should be able to make that, yes.
What time is that on the 17th?
4:30.
it really would be a good idea that we would get something in place.
I mean, we do have that $100 fine thing in place, I just don't know that that's, up to date with what, other counties and those sorts of things are doing, and that it seems to make more sense to be able to have a way, to give an opportunity to abate it, and go on.
Got two sites right now we need to deal with, so.
Mr. Chairman, so what entities would possibly investigate?
So, well, they refer to, in this, they have an actual building inspector officer.
Yep.
There's some of the, they refer to like a planning and zoning administrator.
Okay, yep.
They also have the health officer, so that would be like Grand Forks County, it's my understanding, we contract with them to do, to investigate these sorts of things.
Oh,
And I
we
think they have in the
contract
past.
with Grand
That's what Alan told me.
Oh, could we not
Yeah.
just appoint him as that, or
I'm not sure.
why would we have to
There's-
contract and pay extra if?
Cause it's an inspection and it has state health and everything, just like on my sewer, Alan couldn't do it, they have to have Jay from Grand Forks.
But if it could happen,
Oh.
could we,
If Alan was qualified, he could.
yeah,
I don't know if he's qualified.
we could check that out.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd make a lot of sense for us to have our own.
I think it's been that way though for quite some time, because we
Yeah.
have had people from Grand Forks County. I know there was an issue in Ardoc many years ago
Yeah.
with,
Oh, sure. Mhm.
But you know, even if we go through Grand Forks and Jake does it, he's the one that did the
Oh,
sewer,
okay.
it's free.
yes,
Oh,
I think,
okay.
I think
That's
that,
Jake, I know who
Yeah.
Jake is, yep, okay.
yes, I don't know that we paid for that.
Okay,
No, it's a,
It, I don't know for sure either way, but I didn't get that impression. It's just that they,
yep, okay.
contract with, for those services, I suppose, just, it's probably a contract that doesn't require
Sure.
payment of some sort.
Perfect.
So it's more
it's
of
almost like.
And he's
doing
more of a
Yeah,
memo of
he's-
understanding sort of deal, because he's the expert and able. to-
Yeah, and he's done a lot of stuff in Walsh County too, so. Okay.
That should cover that, shouldn't it?
Mhm.
Think so. Planning and zoning?
Right.
Rural attorney recruitment.
We talked about this already, didn't we?
We did talk about it during budget
Yep.
meeting, and so, I think the only one who wasn't here was Mrs. Suda at that time, so, I believe that you already, indicated that you'd be willing to, support that whole, the remaining $12,600 of that rural recruitment program over the next 4 years. Just due to the issues with, it causing the reduction in his salary, which does affect his, retirement. I would just also note that when we discussed about the recruitment of prosecutors and how that is a shortage across the nation and in North Dakota, I think I mentioned that Stutsman County was having a board meeting that day, and they were looking at significant increase for all 4 levels of they currently have 3 openings in their office. It's just the state's attorney right now. And the board did approve that, which was a huge significant increase in pay for all of those positions. And then they're supposed to, if they don't get any applicants, they're supposed to keep increasing it. So I would like to keep JR, and I think this is, one way of continuing to support him is to, pay out of pocket. I know the city is doing it for Sydney Enerson. And so I'm looking to not, I guess, reduce his salary and to, pay that portion, that $3,150, I think it is per year, to, participate in this rural recruitment program.
I would make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, and a second, any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, so just to get this right, then we would still be paying him, but then, so he would keep his retirement.
He would have his normal step
Yep.
increase and the normal,
Yep.
the normal
And then-
increase plus the additional,
Okay.
3150 would be paid towards that rural
Yep.
recruitment program with the state.
Yep.
The state, supports that, and so he's obligated to continue in service, in his current position for a period of time.
So the state pays that
The state pays a portion,
portion?
but the county or city that has the attorney also agrees to pay a portion. And so you're agreeing to pay that portion rather than subtract it from his salary, so to speak. Does that clarify it a little bit better? I know it's kind of complicated, but
We've
the
had
state
been
also,
deducting it.
last year, it was deducted from his salaries, so.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I just think this is a great way, to support our Assistant State's Attorney. He's done such great work here, and for us to lose somebody that's been here for a while, it's really, it's a way of showing them that we appreciate it and, want them to continue here and stay in the community and be part of that, so.
Any further discussion? Call for the vote, Karen?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yeah.
Ernie? Yes. Myself, yes, motion carried.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I think that's all I had. I will plan on attending that planning and zoning meeting and we'll go
Yeah,
from there.
very
then.
good.
Shelley, can you send me the information, that I should be forwarding to the committee, the planning and zoning committee?
Oh, like the Grand Forks.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I think
I
that would
can,
be something.
I can go and, yes, I can go and, I'd probably just print out the full planning and zoning. Well, I can, what do you think they would want? Do you think I just send them this relevant portion or do we send them the full one? You can
Is
find
that
it
one
online.
from that book you have, that booklet?
No, this is part of the Grand Forks
Oh,
County
oh,
zoning
okay.
resolution.
Oh, sure.
And then I also sent you part of the Walsh County, the current one too, as well. So I sent you both just to,
Just the part one.
Yeah.
Yeah, less is more.
okay, so just the partial one. Yes, I will send that to you and you can forward it to.
Perfect, yes, and then I will make a copy of the actual plan and include that within as well.
Okay,
Yes, yes, so I'll take care of that piece.
okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank
I will
you.
forward that to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
She brought her Bibles with.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Never
there's a
know.
lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of different avenues that
Yeah.
can be taken with respect to some of these properties, I know, yeah, so. Just not sure.
Seems like a good path.
Yes.
Let's take care of the CARES fund update.
I have just one more thing here. I don't know if you all know that Kelly Cole's daughter is at Naval Academy. Yeah. Got accepted to the Naval Academy. How's she doing?
She's a little homesick. She's doing okay. It's hard because I don't get to talk to her
Yeah.
Karen right now.
Yeah, I
so.
know that.
And I'm counting down in 8 days, I get to hug her again. And I know that she needs them, so she wrote that in her letter, so, yeah. but
She'll do
yeah.
great. She's a leader.
Yeah, yeah, super proud of her. Yeah, it's
That's
quite
very
the
cool.
commitment and it's, yeah. She's
Is it-
going through stuff I know I couldn't do right now, so.
Isn't it fun to see your kids growing and expanding and getting out in the world and
It is,
turning into good adults?
it is, that my only regret is that she's growing up, so
Yeah.
she's being forced to grow up very, very fast and to be propelled into adulthood, but that is what we want, right? It's just, it's a little bit different than the typical college experience, so. Where you kind of can still be there, you know, it's hard, but yeah, but it's all good.
Yeah,
It will all
we're
be
proud
good.
of her,
It's
so.
just as mama's heart is hurting for the last month. July was a really long month for me, so I never really felt like I wanted summer to go by so quickly, but I did. All right,
luck.
Thank you.
Kelly.
My computer just went kaput. My computer just went kaput.
Yeah, I think I wanted to brag for her because I knew. she
Must
was-
not want to go to the
I didn't
budget.
even think that any, did you know did you know she was that big?
All the
Yeah.
pictures are so cool.
Yeah, let's take a quick look at the CARES before we go into the budget review.
Okay, so it should be in front of you. I balanced this to the funding accounts, and I feel that the balances are accurate. It should be noted, though, that there are 2 refunds that might be coming for the CARES Act. August 2nd of 2022, there were some Motorola radios for the sheriff's department. Ron reported that it has not been received yet. And I had talked to Chris, and I'm not sure, and she wasn't sure how much would be refunded, if it's a percentage or if it's the whole thing. But there could be some money coming back for that one, as well as January 2023, for the emergency management. There was also some radios, and that also could be. And then I did, after I printed this, I apologize, I did transfer that $28,122 back into this CARES account from technology that was requested at the last meeting. So that is that, and there is no, I talked to Chris, and this balance is this balance. Even though you guys talked about using it for Tyler, it wasn't earmarked for anything. As bills came in, they just paid it. They didn't hold any of the funds for that. Because I think that was initially the question, was if there was money sitting somewhere else for that. And then moving on to the American Rescue.
Can you hold up?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you said 28,000 is coming back in, so we have around $14,000 now. 28,000 will come back in, so we should be about 42,000, is that right? My understanding?
Yeah, that's what it should be. Yep,
Okay.
I haven't looked since I did the transfer.
Okay.
But I would assume that there hasn't been any more bills paid, but I can update you.
Okay.
Because I sent this a couple weeks ago, I think, right, a week ago or so.
Right.
So that is what would be in there. I know we did get a couple bills for Tyler that while Ed was away, we put on his desk, so I'm not sure where that money's gonna come from as well, but, so there are some more bills to be paid. And then on to the next American Rescue Funds. This is, there hasn't been a lot that has come out of that. I did put in, and I, of course, balanced this to the funding accounts. The Agassiz Association, that has to do with, if I understand it correctly, some mental health.
Yes, in the
Yeah,
jail.
in the jail, yeah. So there's one more, it was a 3-year contract, so there is around $21,000 more that will have to be paid out of this.
21,200.
I'm sorry, numbers are numbers, right? Right now, I apologize. $210,000. Thank you.
Like, oh, good.
Yeah, no, $210,000, that will have to come out of that balance. So it'll leave 1.5 in there.
Okay. When was that 210,000 coming out?
I believe,
24, I suppose it'll have to be paid in.
it looks like it, in September of 22, it was paid, oh no, I'm sorry. It looks like the first of each year, so in
Okay.
January of 2024, there will probably be the last payment that is
Still
required.
leaves us with $1.5 million, and
Yeah,
that has to be used by,
December
obligated by December 24.
oh,
And the 24, isn't it?
Funding is not required to be obligated until December 2024.
Yeah.
Have to expend them by 2026.
oh. So, do you guys want any additional information on that stuff for the next meeting or
No,
requirements?
No, appreciate seeing this, thank you.
Yeah, and I will earmark that 210 so that we can kind of we have a running balance as well as a funding balance. Since we know it's gonna be paid, it'll be outstanding, so.
well, it's 11:45, let's do the budget review and then we'll come back to this. Where do we start? I appreciate all the time that went into the budget, and some couple of long days. A lot of information that Christie brought forward that we haven't seen before.
Do you have this new one then for us?
Yes, should I go on, can we take
Yeah.
5 minutes? I can go quick, because I
Do you
did
take my
update,
stuff?
the
I don't think
spreadsheet.
so.
Yeah, okay, I'll be right back with that. Where? Where did it go?
Is that new or old?
You put my stack on top of your stack.
That's what happened.
Oh, you guys
No.
still have
I'm to the- She put hers by mine, I'm to the right. I can't there. Biggest guy here, you want me in the smallest spot.
Oh, Ernie.
Okay. Who does the showing? Or you or her? Explain it all.
Do I go through it, or how do you guys wanna handle
I don't
it?
know, what do we wanna do?
What do we have left to do?
I don't know, it really is.
And make a motion to approve
Yep.
the preliminary budget,
Does
as of
anybody,
today's date.
does anybody feel there's anything else more we can change after this morning, what we changed?
Yeah, do we explain what was changed and how much we
Yeah.
cut, or
Yeah.
Yeah,
you want, should we go over that, or?
right, I think we should.
Sure. As well as where we're sitting and what our intentions are?
Mhm.
Okay, correct me if I am wrong, but the initial budget came, for county general. Once we ran all the numbers, the initial budget paperwork, it was showing that we were gonna need, 97 mills to pay, to complete the budget. We are only allowed 60, so that is going to be a huge decrease that we're gonna have to come up between, we're gonna have to get creative within the county, I think, for our spending. So once we sat down and we looked at it, yesterday, we were able to cut, the first round, $438,000 of that, dropping it down to now only 90 is needed, so another 30. That is if all funds are used. Then we went through all of the other entities, and we were able to cut some more out of their budgets of $287,000. So a total cut yesterday was $725,616, which is a 6.44% decrease from what was initially presented to us.
6 point what?
4%.
It's on the sheet.
The county general was a 7.55% cut. And then the others was, that had their own, they have their own mills, was 5.27%. With doing that, we felt we were able to cut some levies. After looking at the budgets, we felt that we could cut some of the levies that we were gonna be giving out, without it affecting their bottom line. And then we also wanted to add a capital projects fund starting this year. So the proposal is to do, 10 mills, which is the max mills that are allowed. So as the way it sits right now, there will be an increase in the mills of 10 mills, exactly. The estimated mill right now is $64,274. I have not had a chance to do the centrally assessed yet. That will be, hopefully this week I'll get to work on that. And then that number will be fairly solid. But after talking to other auditors, the state can adjust that up until January. They can make adjustments, but we would be done once we get that figured in. So this is going off of last year's centrally assessed values, which the way it sounds, that's what everyone is using, because I questioned that if I should have had that done ahead of time, but that's what they usually are doing because the centrally assessed values are not submitted in time. They are at the end of the budget season, so all this is usually done ahead of time. So
Do we have the Zoom on again?
yes,
Okay.
yes, oh gosh, I hope so, yes.
Okay.
So that is where we are sitting with that. I don't know. Again, we are going to have to go back and try to decide, there was a deficit last year. there's gonna be a deficit the way we're sitting right now as well. So it is my recommendation to try to limit, this is approving overspending. So I personally feel that we need to lower it enough that if somebody wants to make a purchase or their department needs a purchase, that it should require an amendment of their budget, and they would have to present it to the commission before they make the purchase. That is my feel. It's your guys' decision, but I'm approving it as this. We are telling them that they have those funds, and I think we need to be transparent with them as well. And that is my plan, is to send out an email explaining where you guys are sitting, because I have been punching the numbers and trying to figure it out, and I'm very confident in my numbers, but I just feel that we've got a lot of work to do. And I think we can try to find some. We cut $725,000 yesterday. Only lost 7 mils, so.
In a long day, but we did.
Yeah, it was a very long day. We thought it was, yes, it was a very long day without any breaks, so, that's where I'm sitting, and yes.
Mr. Chairman, I think we've done a good job of it, and I know that there's budgets that, that we approve salaries on, which, it's pretty much, that's what we have to do. But if there's department heads that can actually cut anything more, that would be great. We did go through everything, but you never know, if they have something that they can cut or know of, and know that they're not going to spend for the rest of the year even. So that would be good.
The thing is we can always go down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the hard thing to say about it, and I know when I first became commissioners, if you wanna really cut it, it involves wages and stuff like that, and that hurts us when we recruit, but where do you go? I mean, there's a couple times, a couple of years, we didn't give raises when we first started, and that was sort of before I got on, we were just starting to, and then because the county was broke at the time and they need to cut, and that was same thing, we're in the same position. What do you cut? Well, it's wages and stuff, and do we wanna do that? I don't know.
We can only cut so much off
Yeah.
before you can still stay alive.
Yeah.
I mean, we get behind on these buildings, which we've got a lot of bigger.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know,
Mr. Chairman, I think right now what we have done is we've tried to keep a raise in there for the employees. We want to keep the 2% COLA in there for the employees. I mean, that's important. It's very important to keep that in, and I think we have cut other areas trying to retain that 2% COLA. So I know it's gonna be difficult for some of the department heads, some of the areas that we did have to cut. It's gonna hurt. But if we want to retain that 2% COLA for all employees, we have to do that. The other thing is the new 10 mils that we are going to be requesting from the taxpayers for the capital improvement project. We have big bills coming up with this building. We have a new jail that we need. We have to start trying to build up some funds to be able to pay for this. So I hope the public understands when we request this additional 10 mils, it is specifically put aside for the capital improvement projects. So.
And along with that, we've got I call it a slush fund, our balance in our general fund and stuff. But if we keep doing this with our budgets, we're gonna eat that up. So
We ate it up the last year, 2 years ago. I expect we're gonna eat it up this past year.
So if we keep eating that up, we can't have any of that money for our jail and stuff, so, or our projects,
Right.
whether they're roads, bridges, or capital outlay, so. Yeah, our hands are tied. Hopefully, they don't get too mad when they see that 10 mils on there, but.
Mr. Chairman, and I think too, when we're looking at how we can cut on the budget, the ones we can't really touch are road and bridges in county, and that
Right.
takes up so much of our mills when you really look at the numbers. So like we've discussed before, our hope going forward is that we can have some higher assistance with some of, that you look out west, you've got oil issues and infrastructure. Well, out east, it's a little different, but when we have the most bridges in any county, that is gonna play a role in our budget. So, I mean, I hope that will be something that can be addressed going forward in the future years too.
Well, we've got to have to look at the legislature, with this law enforcement and getting that out of the general.
We haven't kept track of it, we always say the bridge inspection, but I wonder if you really total that up, how many mills have we spent on the bridge inspection that we never did before? That's, to me, that's just one thing that sticks out in my mind is, 250,000 here, 300 there, and then a 60 and an 80. I think we'd be shocked to find out how many mills we put into that already.
Look at the escalation of cost, culverts, box culverts, and everything the materials that we need to run this town.
How about paving the highway? I think when I first started, we were around 300,000-400,000 a mile, and now we're looking, what did we just pay on 9 million something?
Million
I
a
mean,
mile.
yeah. So, and really, we haven't increased our mill levies and everything to fund all these projects and stuff. We've done a bang up job with the money we're getting and everything else to try to keep this county going, but it's getting worse and worse.
Can I add, I should add, I'm glad you mentioned that, Denny. Previously, there was, for county general, there were some funds that had their own mill values. And so I do think that needs to be pointed out as well, because the old mills did account for 29 mills, that now that we are required, those 29 mills, we're required to absorb them into our 60. So if they would have been in their own funds, we would be sitting where we should be sitting. So looking at it on paper, we need 90, but not too many years ago, you guys were able to float it on this. So that's where the crunch is really coming. No, I'm not saying people are overspending. I'm just saying we have to get creative to get where we want to be, is what my thoughts are.
Well, you take the 10 mills we increased in the 29, that's 39. You take that from the 90, we'd be under the 60.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's tougher.
It's gonna take some legislative action to get like law enforcement on our general.
Yes, because our highest is the sheriff and the roads.
The roads.
And the most expensive ones, so.
Well, I remember I said I think we gotta go to the county association and everything else and get money and say that our roads and bridges they're not made for what they were. The West got money for their oil because they got more truck traffic and heavier. Well, we got it in our agriculture products. We need something here.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know what we're gonna do. Have 4 roads in the county, 2 going each way, that we really support. Otherwise, you can't keep it all on these bridges.
The cost of everything is going up and our hands are tied at 60 mills.
Exactly.
So we can't raise our mills, not that we want to tax people more, but we can't raise our mills. So we have to figure out how to pay for these additional costs with these 60 mills that we obtain.
Look at the jail, the room and the board, what it's costing us.
Hmm?
The room and board,
Oh, yeah, I know.
that we never really.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's kind of what they wanted to do, is tie our hands so we wouldn't raise it. But, I mean, it doesn't even really make sense. We have to increase wages, for recruiting, things are costing more. And I agree with Ernie, it just needs to be looked at and maybe done differently, because counties like us that are right up to the 60 mills, it's tough, and you can only cut so much. How do we cut our highway department employees? How do we cut from that? We can't get things done now just because of being short there, or law enforcement. We raised those wages so we could fill some of them, and I mean, it's hard to fill even now when we're at a good salary. It's hard to fill that.
Look at Jason today, how many projects that we're just short staffed, we gotta move everybody.
Yep.
It'd be a nice luxury to have a staff we're fully there, and, yeah, I don't know. I think I gotta commend all you, I think we did a heck of a job on this, just cutting it, and I think there's room to cut more, but now to me, the dirty work starts now, even trying to find more.
And we haven't dealt with the repercussions from the cuts we made.
Yeah.
I think we did good on that, though. I don't think we tried to,
No, we're
take
very
anything
even all the way
away,
across the board.
take anything away from anybody who didn't need it.
I think everybody got treated the same. We took a little bit from everybody that we felt we could, and, I mean, they gotta look at our shoes, and when you're short, what do you do?
Well, we can't overspend every year, but we gotta balance.
It's either they become more frugal on their budget, not spend what they have to do, or we start cutting wages and stuff, and I don't really wanna do that, so I think the message of that is them, you know what, be as frugal as you can with your budget, and we can support these COLAs and the increases in wages.
Well,
Otherwise, what do you do?
it's really not about cutting wages, it's about cutting jobs.
Or people, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people.
And how do we cut law enforcement? I mean, you start pulling sheriffs off the road,
No,
start cutting fire.
no.
And I think transparency is very important, and I think as taxpayers, I think that the department heads are going to appreciate receiving this information, so they see it had to be done,
Mhm.
and, go back to them, and maybe there are some things, once they see this, there are some things that they can put on the back burner, for this year. Since we're holding mills for the budget, if they don't think they're gonna need it, maybe, you know, because the mentality has been, put it on the budget just in case. And maybe we can relook at that and go that, maybe,
Priority list.
yeah, a priority, capital plan, 6-year capital plan, roll that out going forward, so the commissioners know what is going to need to be done, when doing the budgets, and, I think if everybody pulls together, I think that we will be able to make some room.
We'd be like if we didn't have the CARES coming there for money.
Oh,
Well,
think like we'd be fine, if we had a Grand Forks or a fire. You know, we've talked about. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, the one thing that is going to help us now having this capital improvement fund is we are going to have money set aside for our air conditioning, our HVAC system. And it's not going to be enough at first by any means, but at least we won't have to pull that out of our general budget.
Exactly.
You know, this is something that I think is very important, and it's going to be good, it's gonna help.
I think we all knew that the buildings and the roads and the bridges and everything, and even our sheriff's department, which we're aging and getting older and costing more. We're seeing it in a big way.
all at once is the problem.
All at once, because I'm not, you know, the buildings and everything, they're all built at the same time, the roads just outgrew themselves, so. You know, we've talked about this long enough.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, we approve the budget is now and move forward and try and make cuts.
Freely, I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just wanna state, since we're on Zoom here, we're looking at all of this. We're all involved in paying taxes, and we're trying to do the best we can as far as being responsible to the people in Walsh County and what they're paying for taxes. So,
And we will be assisting Karen in developing a plan to present for.
well, I'll be talking to the association. I have a meeting there in August. Being on that,
We
being on
can't
that
lay this
board.
all on your shoulders. We're involved. too.
No, but they are the heavy hitters. They know what to do. They know how to approach it. They know how to craft bills. You know, there's other counties
Yeah,
than us,
but
so.
Don't be afraid to call on.
Oh, no, yeah.
I'll call,
Yeah.
remember I talked to her on the jail and who was having effects before and all legislation, and we were late. I'll call her again and see if they've talked about anything on it.
Yeah.
Cause I know
I'm sure
Devils
they
Lake
have.
and Fitz and them guys, I've talked to them, they're in trouble too, so
Okay.
we're not the only ones.
Yep.
All right, we have a motion, and a second. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Now we'll call for the vote. Chrissy,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
myself, yes. The budget as presented is
Preliminary.
preliminary budget. There you go. Thank you.
The hatchet is still out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kristen, for all this.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got baptized by fire.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoy numbers, so I just wish there was more hours in the day. But,
Careful what you wish. for.
yeah, right. But hopefully next year I'll be able to work the numbers a little bit, you know, not such a few week time frame, and we'll be sitting a little bit better.
When I said it, that we had double the paperwork, I hope you didn't take it wrong. All that paperwork really helped our.
No.
It opened our eyes.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and that's what I felt, because I'm just looking at the numbers, and you guys know how to run a county. So I needed your guys' advice, and I can only bring you you can only make a decision on the information you have, so.
I've been here a long time, and I tell you what, this year I looked at that budget a lot different because of what you did. So,
Yeah.
I commend you for that.
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity and hiring me, I guess.
People, I have to go.
Okay,
All right, we have a single audit requirement.
yes, so I have spoke about this in the past,
Sure.
that the DOT requires a single audit if we have spent more than $750,000 in federal funds in a calendar year. We finally were able to figure out that we did not spend $750,000. So we do not need a single audit this year. With the FEMA money coming in though, we will need it next year. But that was a huge weight off of our shoulders because the DOT has changed their requirement. Well, they've had the requirement where it was 9 months after the fiscal year, the single audit was required. We were 6 months late. So in that, we also got a letter from the DOT just this week requesting that they get an official letter back to them explaining why we were 6 months late last year. So I submitted the information for this year showing that we will not need it this year. So I will draft up a letter and send it to you guys to review. It all came back down to the state auditors are backed up. And I talked to our state auditor for this year's audit, and he doesn't even know when they're gonna have time for us for just the regular audit. So we will be looking elsewhere. And that was his recommendation, was to look elsewhere. So hopefully we can find someone more local and have that deadline taken care of. But that was huge for me when I found out that we did not, and us knowing that, you know, the numbers proved that we did not need it, so I was happy about that. So that's that one.
Yeah, the last thing we have left is federal aviation administration aeronautical study.
Yes.
Multiple. What's your suggestion we do?
Well, it's why are we getting it when it's over Niagara?
I don't know, I've never,
Wind tower.
we've never seen anything like this.
I've never seen anything.
Unless it's brand new and.
I had Chris review it with me, and she also said she has never seen anything like this before. And so she felt it was important to bring it to you guys. There's 63 or 62 cases involved in this. And I just looked at the first few and it said there was no hazard to air navigation, and so I stopped, but I can pursue it more if you guys want me to, but.
Mr. Chairman, I'm wondering if we shouldn't have Kelly look at this. I don't know. She might make some sense of it, of just.
It's a wind tower that's going up by Niagara, North Dakota. I mean, it doesn't even involve our county, so I don't know what the.
So the airspace, they're worried about airspace with it, or they need?
Air traffic, hazard to air traffic,
Well, it could be, but I don't, I think it'd be, if she just looked through the thing and see what she thought.
For the reason why we
Yeah.
received it, 'cause without knowing why.
And what advantage we would have to participate,
Yeah, I will take care of that,
All right.
send that.
Okay. Is it Friday?
Is there anything else to bring before the commission? I just want to thank everybody for all the time and effort went into this budget. I know it weighs heavy on everybody. And that's what we're elected to do, and I think we did a good job, so thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, we will adjourn.